Chapter 622 System Mission, Body of the Saint. Hearing this, Luantian Blood Emperor was extremely angry and laughed. To be honest, only a strong person in the Holy Realm would be able to tell his identity at a glance, so he didn't believe Yi Junline's words at all, thinking that the other party deliberately refused to tell him. Master Yi is indeed right, he is really an immortal vampire. Holy crap, this is too crazy. Not only did he kill the real immortal Slaughter, he also disguised himself as him and openly framed immortal Bu. This damn monster is so cunning. There was an uproar from all directions, and all the monks felt very angry and felt like they were being teased. Fortunately, fellow Taoist Yi saw it, otherwise the consequences would be disastrous. Li Ruotong was frightened for a while, and he was extremely frightened when he thought about it carefully. At the same time, I have a little more admiration for Yi Junline. If the other party is allowed to succeed, not only will the immortal world lose a peerless sword emperor, but it will also plant serious hidden dangers for future turmoil. You think it will be okay if you expose my true colors? Wrong, you are absolutely wrong. I will kill all of you, leaving no one behind. Blood Emperor Luantian's eyes flashed with blood, and he said with a cruel expression. At this point, all they can do is set off a massive massacre, and then blame Bu Qinfen for the crime, while he continues to disguise himself as Tu Lai, go back to do business, and win the trust of the immortal court. After all, many people in Dongsheng Immortal Domain saw him chasing down the undead vampires all the way. This can provide him with strong proof. But to achieve this level, we must first solve the biggest threat, that is Yi Junline. As for other witnesses, in the eyes of Luantian Blood Emperor, they are nothing more than ants, they can be destroyed with a snap of a finger and are not worth mentioning. Feeling the surging murderous intent on the other side, Yi Junline didn't take it seriously at all, with a hint of sarcasm in his tone. Do you think you can do it with me here? Hearing the disdain in it, the Blood Emperor of Luantian looked ferocious with anger. The pair of blood wings behind his back suddenly flapped, setting off a violent bloody wind that roared between heaven and earth. A roar filled with deep anger resounded for millions of miles around, making many people dizzy. Then just try it. It is true that facing this silver-haired young man, the Blood Emperor Luantian was very afraid. He would try to avoid fighting if he could, but it was really unavoidable and he was not afraid. After all, he is the unparalleled duke recognized by the immortal vampire clan and the strongest immortal emperor under the Holy Realm. He has his share of pride and will never surrender to a native of the immortal realm. Fellow Taoist Li, you take immortal master Bu first and I'll deal with him. Yi Junline said. Okay, Li Ruotong nodded. Looking at the bloody-haired man with an extremely terrifying aura, she couldn't help but feel frightened. This is a feeling that can only come from a huge disparity in strength. Master Yi Xian, you have to be careful. This monster is very strong. I'm afraid. Bu Qinfen felt heavy and couldn't bear to continue talking. The previous battle had a great negative impact on him, and he believed that no one in the entire immortal world except Tong Wudi could compete with the Blood Emperor of Luantian. Therefore, he felt that Yi Junline was also in danger. At best, he could fight with the help of the domain protecting formation, but he would still lose to the chaotic Sky Blood Emperor in the end. Master Bu Xian, just leave everything to fellow Taoist Yi. I believe he will bring you unexpected results. Li Ruotong said seriously, and then took away Bu Qinfen, who looked surprised, and quickly left the battlefield. Want to escape? Die. Hanshan Blood Emperor's eyes burst out with cold light, and he slapped hard with his backhand. Whoa, a huge bloody palm print condensed into reality and enveloped Li Ruotong and Bu Qinfen. Your opponent is me, Yi Junline pointed out with a sneer, the golden finger light lingering with terrifying aura, directly smashed the bloody palm print. Luantian Blood Emperor's face was gloomy, and his eyes were filled with sinister fervor and strong anger. HMPH, either you will die today or I will live. As he spoke, he used the forbidden technique in his clan without hesitation. The aura on his body soared quickly like a dragon, and the vast sense of oppression spread in all directions like a tide. Most of the monks in the northern cold immortal realm felt this huge pressure, with a look of fear on their faces, and their livers and gallbladders were so frightened. I have to say, the Luantian Blood Emperor paid special attention to Yi Junline. He used forbidden techniques from his clan as soon as he came up, and he did not hesitate to spend part of his life source to forcibly improve his strength, striving to be foolproof and achieve a quick victory. At this time, he was many times more powerful than before. If Bu Qinfen in his prime were to fight him, even if he used his strongest sword, he would be caught and exploded, let alone injured like before. He did. The Blood Emperor's neck and face were bursting with veins, his heart was beating like a war drum, and he felt an incomparable surge of power in his body, and a terrifying smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Although the price is not small, as long as I drain your blood, the rewards will be worth it. Aha! A ghost-like bloody figure streaked through the air, heading straight for Yi Junlin. Dense bloody claw marks crisscrossed each other, each carrying the power to shatter the heavens and the earth. Hee. Yi Junlin also clearly felt that Luantian Blood Emperor was different from his previous opponents, just when he was about to make a move. Suddenly, a familiar system prompt sounded in my mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for triggering the random mission. Defeating Luantian Blood Emperor will receive a reward, condensing the holy body. Close black lens bracket. The huge amount of information behind just a few words made Yi Junlin's heart tremble. Condensing the holy body, as the name suggests, allows him to have the body of a saint, which is billions of times more powerful than the current immortal body. At that time, no immortal magic can do anything to him. Even if he stands and lets 1,000 immortal emperors take turns to attack, it will be difficult to cause any harm to him. You must know that there is an unbridgeable gap between the holy realm and the immortal land. No matter how powerful the immortal is, he cannot defeat a saint. He is as humble as an ant in front of the saint. Because the holy body possessed by the saint is unmatched by the mere immortal body. Only the holy power can pose a threat. However, as long as Yi Junlin successfully completes his mission, he will be able to transform from an immortal body into a perfect holy body and become a super freak who has never entered the holy realm but can possess the body of a saint. This is equivalent to a bug in the immortal world. Exist. Looking at the entire universe, this is a unique phenomenon. Very good, I accept this reward. Yi Junlin's eyes burst into light, and a vast golden halo condensed behind him. There were many mysterious and complex patterns on the surface of the halo, exuding the eternal aura of time. In an instant, his momentum was invincible, like an invincible god of war galloping across the 9 heavens and overwhelming the stars. Fighting Holy Fist. The densely packed golden fist seals were like countless meteorites flying away, carrying a terrifying power that shocked people's hearts. Rumble, 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 earth-shaking explosions sounded one after another, and the mighty energy storm spread in all directions. Countless golden fist prints collided with bloody claw marks all over the sky, and the scene was very grand and spectacular. In a matter of moments, the affected earth was shattered into pieces and collapsed rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. Rolling magma spurted out from the ground. There was a scorching breath in the air, and the heat wave was extremely turbulent. This realm is a piece of land that took millions of years to form. Although its area is far smaller than that of the Great Region, it is still the size of several blue stars combined. Now, in the battle between Yi Junlin and Luantian Blood Emperor, the aftermath of the battle caused this vast land mass to collapse. This is the collision between the top immortal emperors. Window. _tabula equals window. _tabula. Push mode. Thumbs feed 01. Container. Tabula below article thumbnail. 300 by 250 feet. Placement. Below article thumbnail 300 by 250 feet. Target _type. Mix. Chapter 623. Try your best. In the immortal world where a true immortal can barely break a boulder with his full blow, this scene of destruction is simply appalling. Just by feeling the monstrous fluctuations of immortal power, many monks who wanted to watch the battle were scared to death, and their whole bodies were trembling with extreme fear. Rumble. In less than half a stick of incense, this shattered land exploded into powder and was destroyed by the majestic energy storm. 2 figures like the sun were rising crazily, and a fierce battle continued in the middle. A trace of sweat spilled from Luantian Blood Emperor's forehead, and he became more and more frightened. Although he had expected Yi Junlin's strength, he found that he had underestimated it. I originally thought that he could easily suppress the opponent by using the forbidden technique in his clan and consuming his life source in exchange for a terrifying increase in strength. Result: not only was there no suppression, it was barely even. Impossible. I never believed that a humble human race can have such ability. The Blood Emperor of Luantian roared, and the aura on his body was as terrifying as a demon. In an instant, the immortal source in the body was trembling violently. It was originally releasing 8th grade immortal power, but at this moment, it transformed into 9th grade immortal power. Feeling the earth-shaking changes in his body, Luantian Blood Emperor was stunned, then looked ecstatic. I finally succeeded. It's the legendary 9th grade immortal power. 9th grade immortal power is the pinnacle of the immortal level, and it is extremely difficult to achieve it beyond imagination. It is even more difficult than the immortal crown of the great heaven. Unexpectedly, just now, I had accidentally caused a change in the source of immortality, allowing the immortal power in my body to achieve its final transformation. This is a probability of 1 in a billion. Really. I am the one who is truly destined, and this native of the human race cannot compare. At this moment, Luantian Blood Emperor once again returned to his previous arrogance. He was filled with confidence that victory was within his grasp and the overall situation was determined. He looked directly at the silver-haired young man in front of him and said with a ferocious smile, "Human race, you will lose." As he spoke, he crazily activated his 9th grade immortal power and unleashed one of his best killing moves. Because of the blessing of 9th grade immortal power, the power of this killing move is even more terrifying than before. The squeaking sound kept coming. In the vast sky, billions of bloody bats condensed together, exuding an evil aura. "This move will kill you." Luantian Blood Emperor looked confident and raised his hand to strike. With a crash, billions of blood-colored bats flew together, circling and flying towards Yi Junlin. From a distance, it looked like they were enveloped by a huge blood-colored hurricane, and his figure could not be seen clearly. Bu Qinfen, who was settled in the distance, saw this familiar scene through his spiritual consciousness, and his scalp suddenly became numb with fear. Before, he could still rely on the Great Nirvana / to eliminate the Blood Bat army, but now, even if he could use the Great Nirvana / 100 times, he would be strangled in this whirlpool. This feeling makes me desperate just thinking about it. Master Yi Immortal is in danger now. Bu Qinfen gritted his teeth and said. Li Ruotong on the side was silent, a look of determination flashed deep in his beautiful eyes. She believed that the man would be able to deal with it with confidence. "Go to hell." In the sky, the Heavenly Blood Emperor said with a ferocious smile. No idea. Billions of bloody bats suddenly let out a shrill scream. Swish, countless bright 5-color rays of light bloomed from the blood-colored vortex, and the air was filled with the rich aura of the 5 elements of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth. Boom boom boom. A ball of 5-color divine light that was more dazzling than the sun expanded crazily, constantly swallowing the bloody bats all over the sky, and everywhere it passed was filled with nothingness. In the midst of countless shocked gazes, a figure with flowing silver hair stood in the sky. He held a brilliant 5-color light ball in his hand, like a 5-color divine sun spanning the sky. Most of the monks in the northern cold immortal realm could look up and witness it. This is a supreme magical power that Yi Junlin has not used for a long time, called the 5-Pole Reincarnation Great Destruction Technique. Also driven by the 9th grade immortal power, the power of the 5-Pole Reincarnation Great Destruction Technique was extremely terrifying, killing hundreds of millions of blood bats in a short time. This is. The Blood Emperor's pupils trembled. Sensing the familiar aura of immortal power, he felt as if he had been struck by lightning at this moment. This guy actually possesses 9th grade immortal power. Seeing the blood-haired man losing his composure, Yi Junlin smiled playfully. Congratulations, you have finally reached the same height as me in this aspect, but that's it. As he spoke, he aimed the 5-color light ball held high in his hand and threw it forward. Boom! The huge and boundless 5-color light group, carrying the turbulent air waves, crushed the Blood Emperor of Chaotic Sky, who was as small as dust. Feeling this unprecedented sense of oppression, Luantian Blood Emperor's scalp almost exploded, and he felt as if he was facing death. At the last moment, his eyes became fierce and blood burst out from his whole body. He raised his hands and pushed hard towards the 5-color light ball, roaring hysterically. I am the Blood Emperor of Luantian, the unparalleled Duke of the Immortal Vampire Clan. I will never lose to you, a mere human race. In the void, a pair of big bloody hands emerged, covered with tens of thousands of strange runes, and then heavily bombarded the 5-color light group. Boom boom boom, those big bloody hands held up the 5-color light group, creating a scene with great visual impact. Aha! Luantian Blood Emperor clenched his back molars, and all the veins on his face were protruding. His hands were shaking violently, and every muscle in his body was exerting force. Seeing this scene, Yi Junlin sneered, haha, you can still hold on. Suddenly, he raised his hand and pressed it. Swish! The 5-color light ball became more and more blazing, illuminating the sky and the earth. The body of the Blood Emperor of Chaos began to sink, blood flowed from the corners of his mouth, and his eyes showed disbelief. How is it possible? I have already done this, why is it still like this? Is there no limit to the strength of this human race? Soon, the Blood Emperor of Chaos finally couldn't hold on, and was hit into the ground by a 5-Pole Reincarnation Great Extermination Technique. Rumble! A huge deep pit with a diameter of more than 10 million kilometers appeared. So strong. Bu Qinfan's face was shocked, and his heart seemed to be set off by a storm. Thinking of his underestimation of Yi Junlin just now, he suddenly felt ashamed. This kind of strength is already the top of the super first-line ranks, and it is also the ceiling level, right? Seeing this, Li Ruotong smiled and couldn't help saying, Master Bu, you can always believe in the strength of fellow Taoist Yi. Yes, this time Bu really believes it. I didn't expect Master Yi to be so powerful. He is worthy of being the first man in the immortal world who dares to call himself the Emperor of Heaven. Bu Qinfan sighed with shame. Today he was enlightened, and at the same time he was very happy that there was such a powerful man in the immortal world. I just don't know, who is stronger, Master Yi or Tong Wudi? Bu Qinfan also fought with Tong Wudi and was beaten bloody. After all, he was the son of destiny in the immortal world and was blessed by the heavenly way of the immortal world. As long as it is in the immortal world, who can fight him? However, after seeing Yi Junlin's powerful means, even Bu Qinfan's heart was shaken. Perhaps, it is not certain who is stronger. Yi Junlin stood in the air, looking at the super deep pit below, with his eyebrows slightly raised. He could sense that the other party was not dead yet. Chapter 624, The Killing Technique. The billowing smoke dissipated. In the pit, a pool of blood mud that was no longer human was wriggling rapidly, and then reshaped at a speed visible to the naked eye. Soon, the appearance of the Blood Emperor of Chaos appeared in full, with blood-stained hair fluttering in the wind, beads of sweat on his forehead, his face paler, and his breath weaker than before. Having survived a death calamity, he looked at the silver-haired figure in the sky, his eyes full of grief and resentment. They were both top-notch super first-line strongmen, but the gap was so big. You know, he used the forbidden technique of his clan, at the cost of consuming the source of life, and he was lucky enough to obtain the 9th grade immortal power during the period, but he was still beaten horribly. If it weren't for his strong bloodline and strong self-healing ability, he would have completely perished in this world just now. The pain made the Blood Emperor of Chaos feel lingering fear until now. No wonder even the little princess of the Asura clan returned home in defeat in the Beihan immortal realm. For a moment, he felt the same way. Tisk tisk, he is still alive. Vampires like you are not that easy to die. Yi Junlin said with a twinkling look. Human race, let's stop here. You can't kill me, but I have the means to kill you, but that means will have bad consequences for me. The Blood Emperor Luan Tian thought about it and gritted his teeth. Even so, the Blood Emperor Luan Tian still has a trump card that he has not played. This trump card can even kill any immortal creature, and it is one of the taboos of the Undead Blood clan. Only the core members of the super family are qualified to access it, and it is very difficult to practice. The reason why the Blood Emperor Luan Tian did not want to use this trump card until now is because this trump card will also ruin his future. For a proud child of heaven who was given high hopes, it is more painful to have his future ruined than to die. Therefore, even though he hated Yi Junlin so much that he wanted to kill him with his own hands, the Blood Emperor Luan Tian resisted this impulse and tried his best to restrain himself. He wanted to use this to force Yi Junlin to make concessions and end this meaningless fight. Hearing this, Yi Junlin was stunned, his face became strange. No, you have been beaten into this state by me, and you still dare to speak nonsense with a thick face. Who are you trying to scare? Swish, a golden immortal sword emerged from the void, exuding a sacred aura that is invulnerable to all evil. However, there is a crack on the sword body. Yi Junlin held the Kang Yuan sword in his hand, pointed the sword at the blood-haired man below, and sneered. Wait until I chop you into pieces and put them all in the coffin, I want to see how you can recover. His idea is to use the Kang Yuan sword to chop the Blood Emperor Luan Tian into pieces first, and then summon the burial heaven coffin to refine it. After all, when the opponent reaches this level, even the best immortal emperor weapon can hardly cause a fatal blow, which is only a temporary solution. Even a killing move like the 5 Extremes Reincarnation Great Destruction technique can be resisted without being destroyed, so the vitality of the Chaos Blood Emperor can be imagined. He is more than 100,000 times stronger than the Blood Slaughter in Kunlun realm before. If the Burial Heaven coffin is used alone, it is difficult to refine him. Therefore, Yi Junlin thought of using the Kangyuan sword to deal with the Chaos Blood Emperor first, and then cooperate with the Burial Heaven coffin to completely end it. As for the soul-destroying blade, although this thing is good and can directly target the soul, it is not very effective against creatures with faster movement speeds. It is better to be more suitable for the unexpected. Seeing this scene, the face of the Blood Emperor of Chaos was extremely ugly, and he growled, "Enough. Do you think I am trying to scare you? If this move is used, you will definitely die. There is no room for maneuver. Why do you have to force me? You and I have cultivated to this level, and we know how difficult it is. We will both strive for the holy realm in the future, so why do we have to fight to the death? But the more he did this, the more Yi Junlin despised him. This trick can fool others, but don't fool yourself. Then, Yi Junlin held the Kangyuan sword, and an invincible sword force burst out from his body. In the strong wind, he swung a sword. Swish! In an instant, it was like a dazzling galaxy hanging, and billions of sword chi came from top to bottom, destroying the world. The Blood Emperor of Chaos was shocked and angry, so he had to withdraw and dodge and resist. Swish! Even so, there were more scars on his body, and the great perfection of the sword intent of the Taoist grade was madly eroding the wounds. Ah! The face of the Blood Emperor Luan Tian was distorted with pain, and he was shocked at the same time. He found that the healing speed of the wound was slowed down by more than half. Obviously, this was all caused by the sword intent. For him as an immortal blood clan, this was undoubtedly a fatal danger signal. This guy's sword intent is much stronger than the sword intent of the previous sword cultivator. The Blood Emperor Luan Tian's scalp was numb, and he gritted his teeth. Master Yi is actually a peerless sword emperor. On the other side, Bu Qinfen was shocked and his eyes widened, and his heart was shaking wildly. The way of the sword and the way of the sword are actually different paths to the same destination. As the first sword emperor in the immortal world, Bu Qinfen knew how difficult it was to cultivate the sword intent to the great perfection of the Tao. Conversely, the same is true for the sword intent. And today, he saw someone do this. This is a true peerless sword emperor. There was yearning and envy in Bu Qinfen's eyes. In his opinion, if he could comprehend that level, he might be able to chase after the Blood Emperor. In fact, the reason why Yi Junlin could do this, in addition to the blessing of sword intent, was more importantly because of his invincible sword heart. Otherwise, the effect would not be so strong. If Bu Qinfen knew that Yi Junlin had an invincible sword heart, he would be scared silly on the spot and messy in the wind. Because this is more rare than the great perfection of the sword of the Tao. At this time, the Blood Emperor Luan Tian, who was chased and output, was really scared. He could not bear the pain of the wound and the fear of approaching death. If it continued like this, even if he had a super self-healing ability, he would not be able to bear it. Damn human race, you forced me to use that move. The Blood Emperor Luan Tian was completely desperate, and would rather destroy his future than solve the trouble of Yi Junlin. Boom! In an instant, the surging death aura burst out, and the aura of the Blood Emperor Luan Tian was rising wildly. His hands were quickly forming seals, his eyes showed hatred, and he roared. Forbidden technique, Blood Curse. The blood curse can curse a target, causing the blood in its body to dry up instantly and its vitality to dissipate. This forbidden technique can penetrate the defense of any magic weapon, ignore dodges and resistance, and truly bring the curse to the target. Those who are hit will die. There is no possibility of survival. There is only one thing, which is that it will bring irreversible serious consequences to oneself. Not only will the cultivation level regress, but the foundation of cultivation will also be destroyed. For any ambitious Tianzhao, it is no different from death. In fact, it is more painful than death. So, not as a last resort. The Blood Emperor of Chaos really doesn't want to use this trick, because he will lose his great future from now on, and fall from the high clouds to hell. But there is no way. He was forced into a desperate situation, and his anger finally defeated the only remaining trace of reason, and decided to kill Yi Junlin. As for how bleak the future will be, the Blood Emperor of Chaos is unwilling to think about it. In short, this is what he must do now. Window. _tabula equals window. _tabula. Push mode. Thumb speed 01. Container. Tabula below article thumbnail, 300 by 250 feet. Placement. Below article thumbnail 300 by 250 feet. Target _type. Mix. Chapter 625. I laughed and cried. Human race, die for me. With a roar, the Blood Emperor of Chaos launched the blood curse completely. Invisibly, an extremely strange curse fell on Yi Junlin. In an instant, Yi Junlin felt something was wrong with his whole body. The blood flowing in his body began to move abnormally and was rapidly heading towards exhaustion. The sudden change made Yi Junlin feel a strong sense of warning in his heart. This was the first time he felt that chilling feeling since the battle began. It seemed that he was facing an irreversible situation of death. Haha, this taste is very uncomfortable, right? Next, the blood in your body will dry up, and the power of the curse will quickly spread throughout your body, and you will no longer have the possibility of living. Damn human race, this is the end of your insistence on pressing step by step. The Blood Emperor of Chaos, who cast the blood curse, had his aura drop again and again in an instant, his spirit became much weaker, and his cultivation level also seriously regressed, with a faint sign of falling out of the realm of the immortal emperor. He paid a heavy price, and his heart ached like a knife. He regretted why he came to the immortal and to wade into this muddy water. In order to get rid of a human native, he sacrificed his bright future. Even if he successfully completed the task and returned, he would face a bleak situation. After all, he had made too many enemies in the past, and he had an invincible aura among his peers. Now he has fallen to the bottom of the valley. It is hard to imagine what kind of blow he will suffer. Those opponents who were not as good as him before will all surpass him in the future. This is simply a painful torture for the arrogant and self-righteous Luan Tian-Shuidi. Therefore, even if he could kill Yi Junlin, Luan Tian-Shuidi had no sense of accomplishment and joy in his heart, but only deep regret and unwillingness. If everything could be done again, he would never come to this broken place. At this time, sensing the crisis of death, Yi Junlin's eyes flashed with a trace of depression. It seems that this guy really didn't scare people. This cursed attack simply ignored any defense and dodge, and he was hit before he could react. In less than 10 breaths, he would die of blood depletion and death, as the other party said. If it were any other immortal emperor, he would be panicked at this time and could only face death with despair and helplessness. But Yi Junlin was different. He quickly regained his composure because he had a perfect way to deal with it. That is, stand upright without a shadow. Since the curse took effect on him, he simply relied on the skill of virtualization to refresh the state of his body. Stand upright without a shadow. At the critical moment, Yi Junlin performed this mysterious magical power. Suddenly, his whole body became virtual, which meant that he could not be hit by any attack and could not be subjected to various negative effects. After 2 seconds, his body condensed again. The blood curse that was just hit also disappeared during the virtualization process. This fatal attack was easily resolved by Yi Junlin. What happened? The face of the Blood Emperor of Chaos was horrified, and his eyes were almost bursting. He wanted to see Yi Junlin die with his own eyes, but Yi Junlin not only did not die, but was still alive and well. Moreover, he could clearly sense that the blood curse that had just been imposed on the other party was like being wiped out and disappeared without a trace. What happened? Yi Junlin looked at the blood-haired man who was destroying himself with a look of pity, and sighed. Hey, why bother? As he said, he slashed with the sword. At this moment, the Blood Emperor of Chaos was in extreme confusion and shock, and he forgot to resist at all, and was cut off by a sword. A sharp pain stimulated his brain crazily, and he came back to his senses and let out a shrill scream, ah! The broken waist was wriggling with flesh and blood, as if it was about to be reconnected. Yi Junlin didn't give him a chance at all. He slashed with his long sword, and the sword energy spanned 9 million miles and rushed straight into the sky. The Blood Emperor of Chaos was chopped into pieces, and a lot of blood splashed. Only the head was intact. The twisted and painful face, with eyes full of despair and unwillingness, said with difficulty. Why can you get rid of the influence of the blood curse? The Blood Emperor of Chaos really couldn't figure it out. A human immortal emperor could actually do this. What kind of heaven-defying means is this? Facing this question, Yi Junlin pretended to be deep and said, is there a possibility that it is nothing to me? Hearing this, the Blood Emperor of Chaos was stunned at first, and the muscles at the corners of his eyes twitched constantly. Recalling the battle from beginning to end, he cheered up again and again, but was defeated every time, until this last time, he really lost completely, lost miserably, and there was no possibility of a comeback. All the efforts he made seemed so ridiculous in front of that man. Ha 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 ha, he. Suddenly, the Blood Emperor of Chaos seemed to be crazy, laughing wildly, with 2 lines of blood and tears sliding down his face, looking very scary. At this moment, the Blood Emperor of Chaos collapsed. Even if Yi Junlin was willing to let him go, he would live in a daze and die on the spot one day. What's wrong with you? Yi Junlin felt incomprehensible, shook his head, and raised his hand to summon the heaven burial coffin. Wow! A huge bronze coffin appeared, with ancient patterns of birds, beasts, fish, insects, sun, moon, stars, etc. carved on it. It looks a little different. Because he hadn't summoned the heaven burial coffin for a long time, Yi Junlin was a little unfamiliar with it. The heaven burial coffin is a binding magic weapon, and its grade will increase as his realm improves. Today's heaven burial coffin is naturally a top-grade immortal emperor weapon. But I didn't expect that it would have some changes in appearance after reaching this grade. Open. Yi Junlin pinched his fingers with one hand. The heaven burial coffin was opened, and a suction force burst out from the coffin, sucking in the chopped-up Blood Emperor of Chaos. This is... The laughter stopped abruptly, and the Blood Emperor of Chaos looked horrified, with deep fear in his eyes. He had a premonition that once he went in, he would face a fate more terrible than death. No! A desperate cry came out. Boom! The coffin lid closed. If it was the Blood Emperor of Chaos in his prime, it might be difficult for the heaven burial coffin to refine him. But if it was him who was in a state of decline, it would be a simple matter. After a while, the heaven burial coffin fell into silence. Done. Yi Junlin took away the heaven burial coffin and the Kangyuan sword, and then heaved a long sigh of relief, feeling that he had accomplished his mission. To be honest, this undead blood clan is a bit tricky, and it would be very troublesome if there were hundreds more of them. Sure enough, the world outside is very dangerous. It is better to stay in the Immortalland and be safe, where you can lie down and wait for the experience pack to be delivered to your door, which is the best of both worlds. What Yi Junlin didn't know was that he had just killed a super genius who was rarely seen in the undead blood clan in a million years, and was known as the strongest blood emperor of the unparalleled Duke. At the same time, there is another identity, that is, from the Chaos tribe, one of the 10 major tribes, a seed-level figure ranked 9th in sequence. He is also the only one who can enter the sequence without entering the Holy Realm, which means that he will definitely become a saint in the future. However, such a powerful existence died in his hands halfway. Chapter 626 It's like a dream. That monster died like this. Bu Qinfen, who witnessed all this, felt his mind shaken and murmured. There was nothing he could do. When the Blood Emperor of Chaotic Sky was still there, the sense of oppression brought to him was too strong, so strong that it made him feel almost desperate. Not only is he extremely powerful, but he also has terrifying self-healing abilities. This kind of opponent is simply not something he can match. They are both super strong men, but they are actually very different. As a result, he was brutally tortured by the silver-haired young man, and ended up dead without any body parts. Bu Qinfen, who witnessed the whole process, was completely convinced and convinced. Unexpectedly, the current immortal Master Beihan is so strong. Li Ruotong can accept this phenomenon. After all, she has a clear understanding of Yi Junlin's strength. She even vaguely felt that the other party had the qualifications to become the first person in the immortal world. Look, Lord Yi Xian has won. Ha ha ha, I knew that monster couldn't beat Immortal Yi. Immortal Yi is invincible. Master Yi Xian's profile is really getting more and more handsome the more you look at it. I'm so excited as a man. Fellow Taoist, don't be like this. After the crisis was resolved, the northern cold immortal territory was like a cauldron exploding, and monks from all over the place were boiling like a sea, cheering for joy. Fellow Taoist Yi, Master Buxian and I are here. Li Ruotong said through the message. Yi Junlin's mind moved and he ducked in front of the two of them. He had just experienced an unprecedented battle, and his aura was still strong, his eyes were shining brightly, and he showed no sign of fatigue or decline. It seemed that he could defeat 10 more opponents like Luantian Blood Emperor. If this is the case, it's not that he doesn't have this ability. But the only thing that poses a threat to his life is the strange spell of blood curse. To be honest, if he didn't have the magical power of Zhengli Weiying, Yi Junlin would be really in danger. He might have to give up his body and leave his body to escape the disaster. But there is no if in reality. Master Yi, it was you who saved countless creatures in the immortal world. It's ridiculous that Bu didn't trust you before. I'm really ashamed. Bu Qinfen said with shame. Yi Junlin waved his hand. Bu Immortal Master does not need to blame himself. Since I am in the immortal world, I am a member of the immortal world. It is also convenient to kill such foreigners with bad intentions. His tone seemed calm and gentle, but his voice carried an unquestionable power. Bu Qinfen's heart was shocked, and he was even more impressed. It is truly a blessing for the human race and a blessing for the common people to have such peerless powerful people in our immortal world. I really didn't expect that the undead vampires would be so bold and dare to extend their demonic palms into the immortal world. Even the majestic immortal masters of Dongsheng Immortalland were replaced by them. It's hard to imagine how many remnants are planted in the Immortalland, waiting for opportunities. And move. Li Ruotong's delicate and beautiful face had a solemn look on it, and he said in a deep voice. The 5 great immortal masters are the 5 most powerful people in the immortal world. Now one of them has been killed and secretly replaced. How terrifying is this? In addition, How many powerful immortal vampires are lurking secretly in the immortal court, holding high positions openly? Li Ruotong felt a chill running down his spine just thinking about it. Hearing this, Bu Qinfen was filled with grief and anger. He hates the undead vampires deeply and feels heartache for his dead old friends. He looked up at the vast sky, his eyes were red, and he trembled. Brother 2, Immortal Master Yi has avenged your revenge for you. If you are alive in heaven, please rest in peace. What Bu Qinfen didn't know was that Tu Lai had a conflict with Yi Junlin during his lifetime. If he knew, he would definitely feel very embarrassed by what he said. At this moment, Yi Junlin looked strange and felt a little embarrassed. Is it really going to be like this? Maybe the guy named Tu couldn't rest in peace because of this incident. Certainly, this is just a complaint in his heart, Yi Junlin will not say it out loud. In short, in the eyes of outsiders, he avenged Immortal Master Dongsheng and solved this great disaster for the immortal world. It can be said that the merits are immeasurable. After gradually calming down, Bu Qinfen squeezed out a smile and said, "This matter is of great importance, and the immortal court will definitely investigate it to the end. As the top hero, Immortal Yi Yi's prestige will be even greater than before. Here, Bu Qinfen, congratulations in advance. It's nothing more than a false reputation, not worth mentioning," Yi Junlin said. He checked Bu Qinfen's injuries and frowned slightly. "Bu Immortal Master, your health is very bad. You must take a good rest here." As he spoke, he raised his hand and sent a stream of pure and rich wood power towards the other party. In an instant, Bu Qinfen felt warm inside his body, and his pale and weak face regained some rosiness. His injuries suddenly improved a lot, but they were still not fully healed, and some stubborn diseases were still left. Bu Qinfen was shocked by his vast magical powers, and quickly bowed his hands to the silver-haired young man and said thank you, Immortal Master Yi. Yi Junlin slowly retracted his hand, a strange look flashed in his eyes. He was amazed at this man's willpower and how he could sustain himself all the way despite such a serious injury. This was really cruel. Just in time, the business is done. I'm going back to continue eating hot pot. Do you want to come? I just need 2 more sets of bowls and chopsticks, Yi Junlin said seriously. Of course, I have no problem. Li Ruotong smiled. Bu Qinfen was stunned, and suddenly realized that this was a good opportunity to get closer, and quickly said, "Thanks to the invitation from Master Yi, Bu is extremely honored. Let's go." Afterwards, Yi Junlin brought the other 2 people and quickly returned to the Eternal Immortal Sect. The hot pot was steaming hot, and the ingredients inside were still there. Obviously, everyone was waiting for Yi Junlin to come back. At this time, everyone was very happy to see Yi Junlin. "Tong, you are here too," Kanglang Jun said happily. "Well, just after finishing the work, I came with fellow Taoist Yi to have a hot pot. I think you all don't mind," Li Ruotong said in a friendly voice. She didn't have that kind of cold feeling towards the people around her. "My granddaughter is coming, so she must be welcome." Kanglang Jun smiled and quickly prepared a pair of bowls and chopsticks. "Master, look, it's the Immortal Emperor Hao Yu. She wants to eat hot pot with us." Tang Yaoyao widened her smart eyes, and her cute little face was full of excitement. Well, strangely, Luo Qingwu pursed her lips and didn't seem very happy. For some reason, she has always been very confident and lively, but when she saw Li Ruotong, she felt a little ashamed. The reason is still the gap in cultivation and status. After all, she had heard about the legendary deeds of the Li family ancestor when she was very young, and she wanted to catch up when she grew up. But she didn't expect that after she became an immortal, he also broke through to the Immortal Emperor, and the gap was further widened. "Is this the Immortal Master of the Southern Heaven Immortal Realm? I have heard of your name for a long time." Changsheng Patriarch bowed his hands and said respectfully. The title of the First Sword Emperor in the immortal world has a long history. If it weren't for the matter of the Undead Blood Clan this time, he really wouldn't have had the opportunity to see it. Hey, compared with the Immortal Master Yi, Bu is really nothing. Bu Qinfen smiled bitterly. After experiencing this storm, he couldn't put on airs at all. He felt it was a mockery for anyone who came forward to compliment him at this critical moment. "Okay, let's eat together, don't be polite," Yi Junlin greeted, and then he couldn't wait to sit down, and continued to take out various ingredients from the hot pot and eat them in large chunks. When everyone saw Yi Junlin sitting down, they also started to use their chopsticks. Bu Qinfen, who was exhausted from running all the way, was also very hungry. At this moment, he smelled the aroma of meat from the hot pot, and his mouth was immediately salivating and his stomach was rumbling. He saw the opportunity, scooped up a large piece of meat and put it in the bowl, and started eating without caring about his image. These meats, combined with Bai Shaoxi's secret seasoning and the special soup made by the Big Mushroom King himself, have long been very tender. Put it in your mouth and chew it for a while, and your taste buds will feel extremely satisfied. Fragrant, too fragrant. In just a moment, Bu Qinfen forgot all the dangers he had experienced before, and even felt that everything was worth it. Eat slowly, there's more if it's not enough. Yi Junlin just found the reaction of this middle-aged man funny. Thank you. Bu Qinfen was very grateful and relaxed completely. Looking at the steaming hot pot in front of him, he suddenly felt a little dazed. You know, he was chased all the way before, and he went through a lot of hardships and survived a near-death experience. Now not only is the crisis resolved, but he can also eat hot pot safely. It's like a dream. Window. _tabula equals window. _tabula. Push mode. Thumbs feed 01. Container. Tabula below article thumbnail, 300 by 250 feet. Placement. Below article thumbnail 300 by 250 feet. Target _type. Mix. Chapter 627. Condensing the Holy Body. After eating. Everyone's thoughts are still unfinished. Bu Qinfen expressed emotion that this was the most delicious hot pot he had ever eaten. Xiaohei, Master Bu Xian is injured. Go and help him have a look. Yi Junlin said casually, picking his teeth with a bamboo stick out of habit. Yes, Master. The Big Mushroom King walked over and timidly said, Bu Shenju, I can help you heal your injuries. Bu Qinfen couldn't help but have a weird look on his face when he looked at this young man with the pot head who was not even an immortal but also a member of the medicine clan. But after all, he is that person's apprentice, so he still has to take care of his face. Then, just please do it, Bu Qinfen said without any hope. The Big Mushroom King first checked the condition of his body, and finally mobilized all his strength to perform the Qingdi immortality art. A blazing green light emitted from his hands and was injected into Bu Qinfen's body. Bu Qinfen didn't think anything was wrong at first, but suddenly his eyes widened with a look of disbelief. He could feel that after experiencing this battle, some hidden dangers left in his body were disappearing bit by bit like icebergs melted by the scorching sun. This little friend is really a master of rejuvenation. Bu Qinfen praised. After all, if an immortal emperor had the ability to heal an immortal emperor, he would have thought it was nonsense and extremely ridiculous if this had been said in the past. But now, he is convinced. This powerful healing ability can play a vital role in battle. It is much more powerful than the method of the so-called medicine master in Immortal Court. Speaking of Yaozhen, this is also a legendary figure. It is said that he ascended from the Kunlun world. Although he is not good at fighting, he has first-class treatment methods and has many good relationships. The special potion brewed by him can quickly heal a seriously injured monk, and the effect is comparable to the top healing elixir. However, the quantity produced each time is limited, and the higher the cultivation level of the monk, the effect will gradually weaken. But even so, he was particularly valued by the Immortal Court, regarded as an important talent to attract and introduce, and was awarded the official position of a second-level immortal official. However, after personally experiencing the healing technique of Big Mushroom King, Bu Qinfen suddenly felt that the medicine master was simply too weak. After less than 10 breaths, the Big Mushroom King stopped. He was so tired that he was sweating profusely and his breath was a little weak. With his level of cultivation, it was indeed too much to heal an immortal emperor. He had only healed less than a third of the time, and it was difficult for him to continue. Sorry, the Big Mushroom King apologized. Bu Qinfen waved his hand quickly. No, little friend, you don't need to blame yourself, you have already done a good job. Well, please stay here a little longer, so I can help you cure it completely in several courses of treatment. Big Mushroom King said seriously. In this case, Bu Mo is very grateful. Bu Qinfen quickly stood up and bowed his hands respectfully. If he were an ordinary immortal emperor, he would never do this. Because he is the peerless sword emperor and the immortal master of Nanshan. With such a noble status, he cannot afford to give gifts to a mere immortal emperor. But the jarhead boy in front of him was extraordinary, and Bu Qinfen even had a hunch in his heart that one day in the future, he might become famous and become a being that everyone admires. Oh, it's just a little effort. Seeing the other party's behavior, the Big Mushroom King felt quite flattered, and suddenly became at a loss. Finally, he also bowed with his hands, lowering his head even lower than the other party. One is an unknown person who has only the cultivation level of the immortal emperor and is relatively fearful of society. The other is the emperor of the heavenly sword who is powerful in the immortal world. Seeing this scene, Kang Blangjun stroked his beard and couldn't help joking. Master Bu Xian is getting better now, and he can actually have a relationship with the little black Taoist friend. Of course, most people would think it was just a joke when they heard such words that were against Tiangong. But Yi Junlin doesn't think so. All of his apprentices possess peerless skills. Even the 4 lowest ranked apprentices will definitely achieve great things in the future and their reputation will spread throughout the world. After saying his thanks, Bu Qinfen felt very emotional, and his eyes showed a deep look of envy. Hey, Immortal Master Yi's apprentices are too good. As the strongest swordsman in the immortal world, I, Bu Qinfen, established a sect a long time ago and recruited disciples to teach swordsmanship. In the end, none of them could hold up their reputation. Suddenly, a figure in a bamboo hat flashed through Bu Qinfen's mind. Bu Qinfen's eyes were complicated, and there was deep regret in his heart. This person's name is Li Wuji, and he is very suitable for both his talent and temperament. During this period, he lived in the Yutian sword sect. After his continuous guidance, his sword skills became more and more exquisite, and he made rapid progress in the way of swordsmanship. Not long ago, Li Wuji broke through to the realm of the Immortal Lord, comprehended the Tao grade sword intent, and initially touched the threshold of condensing the sword heart. Except for him, no one in the entire sect could defeat him. Given time, he will definitely become a new sword emperor, catching up with him or even surpassing him on this road. During this period, Bu Qinfen hoped that Li Wuji would join another disciple and recognize him as his master, but he was met with disappointment every time. The more this happens, the more depressed Bu Qinfen becomes. Damn it, why is your master so lucky to have a disciple as talented as you? In what way is my majestic heavenly sword emperor worse than him? If one day I meet the master you talk about, I must bring him over to discuss and learn from each other. I'm afraid that your so-called parallel import master can't even withstand my Bu sword, right? Bu Qinfen felt very uncomfortable with Li Wuji's refusal to give in, but out of love for talent, he couldn't help but teach him everything he knew, hoping that he would change his mind and recognize him as his master. Of course, Bu Qinfen did not think about it at all. He saw that Li Wuji had great potential. If he could take the initiative to establish a relationship with him before he grew up, it would be a win-win business for both him and the Yutian sword sect. This was also the biggest reason why Bu Qinfen was willing to teach Li Wuji carefully. It can be said that except for his personal moves, everything else was handed over without reservation. And Bu Qinfen's biggest hope was to hear Li Wuji call him master in person, which was the greatest achievement of his life. Even if he died, he would die with a smile, and he would feel relieved to have such a disciple. HMPH, I'd better not let me meet that so-called Master Wuji in the future, otherwise I will definitely let him see what it means to be powerful. Bu Qinfen got angry when he thought of this, and said secretly with gritted teeth. Master Bu Xian, why do you look so bad? Yi Junlin noticed this and asked curiously. Bu Qinfen reacted and quickly put on a smile, waving his hand and said, nothing, I just suddenly remembered something annoying. Oh, that's it. Yi Junlin was too lazy to ask more questions, anyway, it had nothing to do with him. Ding, may I ask if the host is condensing the holy body now? In his mind, the system prompt sounded again. In fact, not long after he killed the Blood Emperor of Chaos, the system gave him a reward for completing the task in time, but this time the reward needed his consent before it could be reflected in reality. Yi Junlin patted his stomach and burped, thinking that there was nothing to do now, so he might as well condense the holy body. He was also very curious about what it was like to have a saint's body. You know, this is not a half-saint's body, it is a genuine saint's body, it is not comparable to the defective half-saint. Through the system, he also learned that, in fact, the breakthrough from the immortal emperor to the saint is a change from the immortal path to the saint path. To become a saint, you have to survive the saint tribulation. If you can't survive, you will be wiped out. Because the saint tribulation is too dangerous, many people will settle for the second best and trigger the semi-saint tribulation, which will greatly reduce the danger. After all, the semi-saint is also a saint, and is also an existence above the immortal emperor, but it's a bit awkward to be stuck in the middle. Moreover, the semi-saint can cultivate to the saint, that is, to become a true saint. Although it is very difficult to become a true saint, there are many such examples. Therefore, the base of the semi-saints in the entire universe is very large, and there are many who have become true saints by counter-attacking all the way. Of course, who would want to become a semi-saint if they can become a true saint in one go? First of all, not only is there a big gap in the style, but more importantly, the strength. The gap between the semi-saint and the true saint is like a firefly and a bright moon. Now, Yi Junlin was still in the realm of the immortal emperor, but he could condense a true saint body. How amazing is this? In order to avoid causing too much impact, Yi Junlin deliberately flashed to a mountain with no people. After he was ready, he said to the system, "Tongzi, condense the holy body for me now." Ding, condensing the holy body for the host. The system prompt sounded. Boom, the next second, an incomparable and amazing breath rushed into the sky like a dragon, shaking the 9 heavens. Even the immortal world was trembling. Chapter 628. The holy body is condensed, and the world cannot tolerate it. What happened? Suddenly, countless monks who sensed the vibrations in the immortal world felt their hearts tremble, and subconsciously looked up at the sky, their faces full of fear and uneasiness. Immortal Court. In the study, Lu Wangshu suddenly stood up, his eyes full of surprise. He looked out the window at the vast sky and discovered that there was something strange in the sky. A series of silvery and blazing thunders intertwined with each other in the thick clouds, releasing a breathtaking and terrifying aura. Rumble. Along with the deafening muffled thunder, it seemed that God was angry about it and wanted to pour out endless anger. Seeing this situation, Lu Huang suddenly thought of something, his expression changed from surprise to shock, and he said in an incredible tone. Someone actually wants to go against heaven. As the leader of the immortal court and the core figure in creating the immortal world, he naturally knows the reason for the current changes in the immortal world. That is, there are people in the immortal world who want to go against heaven and do things that are not allowed in this world. Even the heavenly Tao of the immortal realm was alarmed and felt angry. Far away in the northern Han immortal realm, eternal immortal sect. A vast and incomparable sense of oppression enveloped the world, and countless disciples and elders were trembling with fear and at a loss. What's going on? Bu Qinfan's heart trembled, the hairs all over his body stood up, and a chill ran down his spine. Could it be that the source of this aura is? Li Ruotong's face changed drastically, and he ducked to a nearby mountain peak, looking at the elegant silver-haired figure standing in the wind. Above the head, a large mass of dark clouds was gathering, and endless thunder surged in the clouds, like densely packed dragons soaring around. In an instant, the terrifying power of heaven filled all directions, and every inch of void seemed to be frozen. Everyone trembled, their hearts seemed to be tightly grasped by big hands, and they felt it was difficult to breathe. Fellow Taoist Yi, what are you doing? Li Ruotong's scalp was numb and he had the courage to ask. She really didn't understand what that man was doing to make such a big fuss. Even the supreme heavenly Tao of the immortal realm was outraged by it. Standing on the top of the mountain, Yi Junlin had a waterfall of silver hair, and a handsome face with a hint of depression. No, is there such a big commotion? I thought it would be over soon. Obviously, Yi Junlin also underestimated how much impact the condensation of the holy body would have on the immortal world. You must know that according to the laws of heaven and earth in the immortal world, existences of the level of the immortal emperor will be born after death, and the number they can accommodate can be as many as hundreds or even thousands. But it just can't accommodate the appearance of a saint. The reason is that the status of the immortal world is not high enough and has not yet risen to that level. It is still within the category of immortal civilization. Let alone a saint, it would be difficult to break through to the semi-saint level. The heavenly way of the immortal realm would never allow such a creature to be born, because it has already escaped the scope of its control. This is like a system program. Originally there was no such setting. Once a new unknown thing appears, it will determine that there is a virus and kill it immediately. So, in the eyes of the immortal world, Yi Junlin is the virus. It must be cleared immediately. Buzz buzz. At this time, the system was condensing a holy body for Yi Junlin. Billions of sacred rays of light burst out from his body, which were more dazzling than a sun and emitted extremely powerful energy fluctuations. Among them, there is even more pressure that is superior to all living beings. It seems that the entire Immortaland will be trampled under his feet. What a strong aura. Bu Qinfen looked at the figure shrouded in light, his face full of shock, and a sense of surrender inexplicably emerged in his heart. Is Lord Yi Xian making a breakthrough in cultivation? The longevity ancestor thought of a possibility, his pupils shrank instantly, and he asked in surprise. There is only one explanation at the moment. But he has never heard of anyone being able to break through to a level above the immortal emperor. The immortal world has been developing for so many years, but there has never been a precedent. As Yi Junlin quickly gathered his holy body, billions of thunders suddenly exploded in the sky above his head, spreading throughout the northern Han immortal territory. Rumble. Then, in the vast sky, a crack about 90 million miles wide appeared. Immediately, an eye without any emotion suddenly opened, its dark golden pupils cold and indifferent. Everything in the world is just floating clouds in its eyes, even the immortal emperor is just ants in its eyes. Then, is that, Li Ruotong couldn't help but take 2 steps back. A look of deep fear appeared on his delicate, fair and jade-like cheeks. Suddenly, there was a chill on his back that went straight to the top of his head, threatening to lift his skull. Bu Qinfen felt as if he was struck by lightning. He stared at the ancient vertical eye in the sky with dumbfounded eyes, his heart was shaking wildly, and he blurted out. Eye of Heaven. The Eye of Heaven, as the name suggests, is the Eye of Heaven. Its appearance represents the arrival of heaven in person to raise an army to punish sins. That is the way of heaven in the immortal world, and any creature in the immortal world must look at its face. The Eye of Heaven immediately cast its gaze on Yi Junlin below. Infinite anger emerged from his originally cold and indifferent eyes, which he wished he could get rid of. In an instant, a majestic murderous intention condensed on Yi Junlin. Looking at the angry vertical pupils in the sky, Yi Junlin was also speechless. No, you have to take care of this too. Tongzi, hurry up, you're taking so long. Yi Junlin urged. Ding, reporting to the host, there are still 5 seconds before the condensation is completed, please wait patiently. Closing square bracket. The system prompt sounded. 5 seconds. That's fine. Yi Junlin silently counted down to 5 seconds in his heart. At the same time, the Eye of Heaven decided to launch an attack. A terrifying chaos immortal thunder condensed and locked Yi Junlin firmly. Time seemed to have stopped, and only black and white remained between heaven and earth. This attack could easily kill the Blood Emperor of Chaos, and its power even exceeded the scope of the Immortal Emperor. As the heavenly Tao of the immortal realm, because it is sitting on a powerful immortal Tao civilization, there are signs of some pilgrimages. The strength can be said to be equivalent to a half-saint. By the way, if it were the Kunlun realm in its heyday, the heavenly Tao there would be a real saint level. However, later, due to the decline of the environment of the Kunlun realm, the strength of the heavenly Tao also decreased. Let's get back to the point. The Eye of Heaven is also above the level of the Immortal Emperor, not to mention that it is in its world, and it is still confident that it can kill Yi Junlin, an alien. Not good, fellow Taoist Yi is in danger. Li Ruotong's face changed drastically. She wanted to do something, but the pressure brought by the Eye of Heaven made it difficult for her to move for a while. Damn it, Bu Qinfen gritted his teeth, holding the handle of the knife tightly with one big hand, trying to draw the knife, but he couldn't move at all. Even the immortal emperors of their level are like this, let alone those who are not as good as them. Under the pressure of the Eye of Heaven, which is comparable to that of a half-saint, Kanglang Jun and others only felt that they were as small as dust, and a sense of panic emerged in their hearts. Everyone was anxious and could only watch. 3, 2, 1. When he counted to 1 silently in his mouth. Suddenly, Yi Junlin burst out with a vast momentum that shook the immortal world. His body has undergone earth-shaking changes. It is no longer as simple as the previous immortal body, but a real holy body. Boom! The sun and the moon are dark, and all living beings tremble. Yi Junlin put his hands behind his back and rose into the air, carrying an ethereal aura that transcends the immortal way. At this moment, the chaotic immortal thunder disappeared, and the eyes of the Eye of Heaven showed fear. It can sense that the aura on Yi Junlin is terrible, and it seems to be stronger than it. What should I do? Such an alien appeared in my world, and I can't do anything about it. Is this the holy body? Yi Junlin immersed himself in his mind and checked the situation in his body out of curiosity. As a result, he found a strange phenomenon. That is, the immortal source is still there, and the 9th grade immortal power is still there. What's the situation? Tongzi, you won't give me a fake holy body? Yi Junlin wondered. Ding, please don't talk nonsense, this system is absolutely professional. Now your body is a genuine holy body, that is, the body of a true saint, but your cultivation is not. Everything in your body is still in the realm of immortals. You are still using immortal power, not holy power. Closing square bracket. The system said seriously. This time, Yi Junlin completely understood. That is to say, except for the body being a holy body, everything else is still in the realm of immortals, such as immortal source, immortal power, immortal energy and so on. Because if it is a true saint, there is a holy source, holy power, holy energy, and holy body, and he currently only has one of them. After all, Yi Junlin is just condensing a holy body, not breaking through to the realm of true saints. Even so, relying on this holy body, the power contained is enough to blow up any immortal emperor with bare hands. Moreover, the strength of the holy body is by no means comparable to that of the immortal body. Even if 1,000 immortal emperors or 10,000 immortal emperors attack him at the same time, they cannot cause him any harm. After figuring this out, Yi Junlin said that he still made a profit. Then, thinking of the current situation, he raised his head and squinted at the eye of heaven, and sneered. "Little brother, you seem to have something against me just now." Chapter 629 A Messy Crowd. Seeing this alien actually provoking him, a flash of anger flashed across the eyes of the eye of heaven. Throughout the ages, all beings in the immortal world have been in awe of it. It is the supreme incarnation and represents the will of this world. However, someone actually openly provoked it without fear of its majesty. Rumble. The powerful chaos immortal thunder condensed again, and there was a faint sign of being released to Yi Junlin. Yi Junlin was not afraid, and his eyes showed a strong interest. If he could take this opportunity to touch the immortal world's heavenly way, his cultivation would surely surpass the immortal emperor and be promoted to the realm of the saint. As a result, when this beautiful idea came up, the eye of heaven seemed to react and realized how stupid his actions were. The scene of Yi Junlin condensing his holy body was seen by it. The fluctuation of the breath far exceeded that of the semi-saint. Just thinking back, couldn't help but feel lingering fear. At this moment, the angry eyes turned into a strong fear. The chaotic immortal thunder that had been condensed like a real thing showed signs of slowly dissipating again. The eye of heaven had already begun to retreat and did not dare to easily provoke this alien. Now, it was Yi Junlin's turn to get angry. "Damn, what does that mean? Aren't you going to hit me? Why are you scared now? No, if you don't hit me, what's the point of my cultivation?" Yi Junlin, who was getting more and more anxious, actually took the initiative to soar into the sky and attack the eye of heaven. He clenched his fists hard, and the vast force bursting out of his holy body seemed to make a hole in the boundary wall of the immortal world. Feeling the amazing breath fluctuations, the eye of heaven was almost scared to death, and a strong sense of crisis surged in his heart. Suddenly, he didn't care about his face anymore, and turned around and ran. Boom! In an instant, the vast and thick dark clouds dissipated instantly, and the huge vertical pupil comparable to the eye of heaven suddenly closed and disappeared. The sky was clear and the sun was shining. It seemed that the horrific scene just now, which was like the end of the world, was an illusion. Anyone who witnessed it with their own eyes knew that this really happened. Yi Junlin's figure stopped in the air, with a confused look on his face. It felt like he was drawing his sword and looking around with a confused heart. No, why did he run away? As the heavenly Tao of the immortal realm, this is the result. This is too much. At this moment, Yi Junlin really didn't expect that his actions would scare away the heavenly Tao of the immortal realm. Damn it, who can he go to for justice? Lu Wangshu, who was far away in the immortal court and wanted to deduce based on the celestial phenomena, saw that the world had returned to normal, shook his head, and came to a conclusion without thinking. It seems that the person who defied the heaven is dead. Lu Wangshu didn't think that the daring guy could succeed in defying the heaven. You know, the heavenly Tao of the immortal realm is comparable to a half-saint, enough to kill any creature of the immortal emperor level. Even with his ability, he dared not tear his face with the other party. Therefore, he could not think that the immortal cultivator who violated the heavenly Tao would have any possibility of survival. Although I am very curious about what that person did, even the heavenly Tao wanted to get rid of him as soon as possible, but it doesn't matter anymore. Lu Wangshu shook his head and sighed. There is no way. These days, there are always people who want to die. It's just that this kind of death is the most high-end in history. Lu Wangshu never thought that the person he mentioned was not only alive, but also scared away the heavenly Tao. Eternal immortal sect. Everyone's face was full of shock, and the eyes looking at Yi Junlin became different. Am I seeing it right? Yi Shenju actually scared away the heavenly Tao. Bu Qinfen swallowed hard, his heart almost jumped out of his chest, his worldview was overturned, and his spirit was greatly shocked. Fellow Taoist Yi, has he become so powerful? Even the heavenly Tao of the immortal realm. Li Ruotong was in a trance for a while, standing there like a clay sculpture, her beautiful eyes full of the silver-haired figure standing in the air, muttering. Fuck, Senior Yi is so awesome. Kanglang Jun came back to his senses from the shock, and his emotions became extremely excited. His eyes were filled with endless admiration and fanaticism, and he shouted excitedly. In his eyes, just now Yi Junlin stepped into the sky alone and took the initiative to attack the Eye of Heavenly Tao, but who knew that the Eye of Heavenly Tao was frightened and fled in panic, not daring to fight. This extremely shocking scene was deeply imprinted in his mind and he would never forget it. Hiss, is this guy so fierce now? Luo Qingwu took a deep breath, her beautiful eyes were bigger than copper bells. She found that this man could always refresh her cognition again and again. She thought that the previous record was outrageous enough, but this time it was even more outrageous than before. Even the heavenly Tao of the immortal realm was frightened and fled without a fight. Who would dare to believe that in this immortal realm, there is actually an existence that even the heavenly Tao cannot control? I just wonder if he is so fierce there. Luo Qingwu suddenly thought of something, and a thought-provoking smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. As expected of a female gangster, her brain circuits are different, and she always has strange ideas. Tang Yaoyao's face was dull, and her cherry mouth opened into an O shape. This scene was really shocking to her. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration burst out from her mind. She has an inspiration. These days, Tang Yaoyao has made a lot of money thanks to the success of her previous works, and she is itching to continue writing the next work. But she was very distressed because she had no good ideas and had not started writing. Now, she saw Yi Junlin's invincible posture, scaring the heavenly Tao of the immortal world to flee in panic. This scene directly stimulated her creative enthusiasm, and a new idea unfolded in her mind. For the general plot of the second part, I might write that because the heavenly Tao is unfair, all living beings suffer. In the end, the heroine violated the heavenly Tao in order to save more people. Just when she was about to be beaten to death by the heavenly Tao, the hero who rushed over was furious and went against the heavenly Tao to fight against the heavenly Tao. Thinking of this, Tang Yaoyao's breathing became rapid, and her eyes were full of fire. Otherwise, how can we say that inspiration comes from reality? Yi Junlin was very uncomfortable and felt very sorry for this wave of defeat. Alas, am I so terrible that I don't even have the courage to fight me? He sighed with helplessness on his face. If the heavenly Tao heard this, I wonder what he would think. After all, in its eyes, Yi Junlin was a terrifying alien it had never seen before. The fluctuations of the breath emitted by the holy body alone were enough to make it feel frightened. Why not run, stay and get beaten? Forget it, there is a long way to go. Yi Junlin adjusted his mentality, flashed in front of everyone, and said with a smile on his eyebrows. What, are you all waiting for me here? Everyone looked at each other, not knowing what to say. Bu Qinfen suppressed the tremor in his heart, and said cautiously with awe, Yi Shenju, have you broken through to that level? In the general cognition of the immortal world cultivators, the immortal emperor is the highest level, and there is no existence above the immortal emperor. But only the powerful who stand at the peak of the immortal world, such as Bu Qinfen, will know that there is actually a legendary level above the immortal emperor. That is the holy realm. It is said that once you enter the holy realm, even the immortal emperor is like an ant. Of course, this is just a legend among the high-level people in the immortal world. Because no one has succeeded in breaking through for so many years, they all think this is an unrealistic guess. However, when seeing Yi Junlin's shocking move, Bu Qinfen couldn't help but have this idea. It was like a bolt from the blue, hitting him. When he asked this question at this moment, even his voice was obviously trembling. Li Ruotong and Kang Langjun also thought of something at the same time, their hearts trembled suddenly, and they looked at the silver-haired young man in disbelief. As the natives of the ancient Kunlun world, they witnessed the glory of the four saints in the same era. Originally thought that it would be difficult to meet a strong man who reached that level in this life, but unexpectedly a miracle happened. Saints, only saints, can make the immortal world and the heavenly way frightened and flee. If this is the case, then everything can be explained. Chapter 630 Yu Washeng, the sky is falling. Hearing Bu Qinfen's words, Yi Junlin fell silent. He knew what the other party wanted to ask, but the problem was that his current state was very strange. His cultivation was still at the level of the immortal emperor, but his physical strength was no different from that of a true saint. So, strictly speaking, he was not a true saint. Thinking of this, Yi Junlin shook his head. I'm sorry to disappoint Bu Shenju, but unfortunately I'm not one. This. Bu Qinfen's face froze, and he was stunned when he heard this answer. He originally thought that the fundamental reason why this silver-haired young man could scare away the immortal world was that he broke through to the legendary saint realm. Who knew that the other party rejected it outright? But, if he hadn't reached this realm, what else could he rely on to do this? Yi Shenju, please don't joke with me. Bu Qinfen didn't give up, and said with a stiff smile. Yi Junlin said seriously. I'm not kidding you, I really haven't reached that level completely. Seeing this, Bu Qinfen realized that everything the other party said was true. So that's it, I was overthinking. Bu Qinfen's expression was a little embarrassed, with a hint of disappointment in his eyes. Li Ruotong and Kanglang Jun were also like this, their eyes dimmed. They thought that after a long time, they could see the birth of a saint again, but it turned out that they thought too much. Ahem, although it's not there yet, it's relatively close. Yi Junlin changed the subject. Hearing this, everyone's eyes lit up, and hope surged in their hearts. Haha, I said, even if it's not, it's almost the same. Bu Qinfen said excitedly. Only in this way can it be explained. At least let him know that there is hope for a breakthrough in that level of realm, and it is by no means an illusory concept. Hehe, I believe that with Senior Yi's ability, he will soon be able to break through to the Holy Realm and become the first saint in the immortal world. Kanglang Jun took the opportunity to flatter him. Li Ruotong looked at her grandfather's flattering look and felt a little speechless, but at the same time she had to admire his vision. No wonder she would rather stay with this man and work like a cow and a horse than go back to the Li family with her to live a glorious life. She couldn't understand it at first, but later she felt the same way more and more. In every era, there are many talented and outstanding people, heroes, who are like stars, shining brightly, and writing their own legendary chapters in this vast history. As a cultivator with ordinary qualifications, if you can hold on to one of them and act as a follower unswervingly, you can also get many benefits during this period, and your own luck will also rise. When the other party is successful and famous in the future, as a follower, you can also benefit from it, and your status will rise. What's more, the thigh that her grandfather is holding is thicker than anyone in the immortal world. If this era is full of stars and strong people, then the light that Yi Junlin shines is enough to overwhelm all the geniuses, making them eclipsed and disappearing in the dust. So, seeing her grandfather's flattering behavior, Li Ruotong could understand it all at once. Who wouldn't lick a person who is almost a saint? Even she wanted to lick him fiercely. Maybe. Yi Junlin waved his hand. It was only a matter of time before he broke through the saint realm. Besides, with this body of a true saint, he was able to walk sideways in the immortal world. Even if a bunch of semi-saints descended on the immortal world in the future, Yi Junlin felt that he could easily solve it. For the people in the immortal world, although the commotion just now was very loud, it has fallen into silence at this moment. Regarding this incident, different versions soon spread everywhere, and rumors were everywhere. Some people said that it was a big devil who committed a heinous crime, and in the end even God couldn't bear it and sent down endless thunder punishment. Others said that it was a peerless great power who wanted to change his fate against the will of heaven, which caused the wrath of heaven and brought about a terrible killing disaster. In short, there are many versions, but the ending is the same, that is, the initiator will definitely die. After all, how could he still be alive after making such a big noise? When this episode was over, a shocking news came to the Immortal Court, causing a shock in the Immortal Court. What? An undead blood clan lurked in the Immortal Realm, not only killing the Immortal Lord Dongsheng but also replacing him. Even the Immortal Lord Nanshan was almost killed. Fortunately, the undead blood clan has been killed by the Immortal Lord Beihan. Hiss. Has the undead blood clan reached this point? Even an Immortal Lord level figure was secretly replaced by them. Fuck, Immortal Lord 2 is such a powerful man, and the reputation of Emperor Tianzhan is known to the world. I didn't expect that he would be killed by the poisonous hands in the end and died so miserably. In this case, this time it's really thanks to the Immortal Lord Beihan. Emperor Yi Tian is awesome. When everyone learned of this sudden news, they felt very incredible at the first time. That's an Immortal Lord level figure. In the end, he died like this. Although Tu Lai was arrogant, had a bad temper, and was not very popular in the Immortal Court, his strength was unquestionable. Even an immortal emperor of this level died at the hands of the undead blood clan, and was then replaced by a disguised identity. Just thinking about it made many immortal officials shudder and feel a chill on their backs. After all, once this kind of monster sneaks into the Immortal Court, who knows how big a hidden danger it will cause, and they will all suffer. Fortunately, the North Cold Immortal Lord saw through the other party's identity and killed him, solving this major disaster for the immortal world. This achievement is even as great as the previous one. But it also reveals a very dangerous message, that is, in addition to the undead blood clan, how many accomplices are disguised as other people and deliberately lurking in the immortal world. Among them, perhaps some have changed their appearance and become important figures in the Immortal Court. In this regard, the top leaders of the Immortal Court were shocked and angry. The leadership team represented by Lu Wangshu ordered a thorough investigation. Once the news came out, the immortal world was in an uproar, and everyone was in danger. Many people were afraid that their relatives and friends were pretending to be undead blood clans. Yu Ha Dao Palace. In the attic, the teacup fell to the ground with a clang, and the tea splashed everywhere. Yu Washeng was shocked, and almost suspected that his ears were wrong. Zongju, you. An elder who came to report the matter said in astonishment. Yu Washeng realized that he had lost his composure, and waved his hand calmly, saying, I know, retreat. When there was no one around, Yu Washeng scratched his hair frantically, his mentality exploded on the spot, his eyes were full of bloodshot like a beast, and his expression collapsed. What a joke. It was exposed at this juncture. Yu Washeng had calculated everything, but he didn't expect that the plan would make a serious mistake in this link. Moreover, it was still the fault of Luantian Shuidi. Damn, weren't you very awesome before? Why did you get yourself involved? Although Yu Washeng couldn't stand Luantian Shuidi's character, he had to admit that the other party's strength was rare in his life. Besides, everyone was in the same boat, and if anyone capsized because of this, it would not be worth the loss. Therefore, Yu Washeng did not want the Blood Emperor to have an accident before the plan was completed. However, things did not go as planned. Not only did the Blood Emperor really die, but this undercover operation was also discovered by the Immortal Court. The consequences were very serious. Emperor Yi Tian, it's you again. You always ruin my good things. Yu Washeng gritted his teeth and trembled with anger. On the one hand, he was shocked that the other party could kill the Blood Emperor, and on the other hand, he hated the other party for repeatedly obstructing it. I hope this matter will not involve me. In the room, Yu Washeng was like an ant on a hot pot, anxious and terrified. Dongshan Immortal Domain. When the local cultivators learned the truth, they were dumbfounded. No, the immortal slaughterer that day was actually a fake. Was it the immortal blood clan pretending to be? Recalling the previous operation of helping the fake to deal with Bu Qinfen, all the cultivators in Dongshan Immortal Domain felt ashamed and panicked. They are actually helping an undead vampire to hunt down the famous Yutian Dao Emperor in the immortal world. This time, it is really embarrassing. Zai's Immortaland. Qingzhou Kingdom. In the magnificent palace, Su Yingwo is wearing a phoenix-embroidered long dress, with her hair tied high and 3 golden hairpins inserted in her hair. She has a noble aura and sits on the throne. Throwing aside her previous charming posture, she is now very much like an empress, which is also how she is in the eyes of the people of Qingzhou. Is this true? Hearing the report from her subordinates, Su Yingwo suddenly opened her beautiful eyes, with shock in her eyes. Yes, the news is absolutely true. Now it has spread outside, and the Immortal Court is also taking big actions. Grand Marshal Su Meng said in a deep voice. As he said that, his eyes were a little strange, and he glanced at the silver-haired figure next to Su Yingwo. The silver-haired figure is naturally Yi Junlin. He was wearing a fox-ear headband and a bell collar around his neck, standing quietly and obediently beside him with his eyebrows lowered. It was enough to imagine what roles Su Yingwo and him were playing in private. The king is really good at playing. Su Meng, who felt it was hot, quickly retracted his gaze and said secretly in his heart. Of course he knew that this was just a fox hair of Su Yingwo, but the other party was Yi Junlin after all, which was very visually impactful. Su Meng began to feel very curious. If the Yi Shenju witnessed this scene, he didn't know what he would think in his heart. I didn't expect that Tu Lai would die like this. Su Yingwo's mind was a little dazed, and her emotions were particularly complicated. Admittedly, she hated Tu Lai's character, but the other party was one of the pillars of the immortal world after all, and a powerful man with tremendous combat power. As a result, he was killed by an alien race from outside the domain, which made Su Yingwo, who was also a person in the immortal world, not happy at all. Fortunately, Immortal Master Yi took action in the end. Su Yingwo couldn't help but tremble in her heart when she thought of Yi Junlin's peerless figure that day. Strange emotions surged in her heart. As expected, he is worthy of being the man she values. Retreat. If there is any movement in the Immortal Court behind, you must tell me as soon as possible. Yes. Su Meng lowered his head, bowed respectfully and retreated. The hall was empty. Su Yingwo turned his head and looked at the silver-haired young man with lowered eyebrows and eyes next to him, and waved. Little Yi, come here. Yi Junlin, with a pair of fox ears on his head and a bell collar immediately did as he was told. My Lady Empress, what do you want me to do? Punch my legs? Yes. The stand-in did as he was told without hesitation, kneeling down and giving Su Yingwo a leg massage. Looking at his satisfactory masterpiece, Su Yingwo first smiled triumphantly, then suddenly a trace of melancholy flashed across his eyes, and he sighed. Alas, you are not him after all. This, Yi Junlin, didn't understand at all, and raised his blank face, not understanding what he meant. It's none of your business, continue. Yes, window. Underscore tabula equals window. Underscore tabula underscore tabula. Push mode, thumbs feed 01, container. Tabula below article thumbnail, 300 by 250 feet, placement, below article thumbnail 300 by 250 feet, target underscore type, mix. Chapter 631, Shrouded in Gloom. These days, because the matter of the undead blood clan was exposed, it caused a stir in the immortal world, making many people suspicious. Especially in the immortal court, when the immortal officials met and greeted each other, they were more or less suspicious, fearing that the familiar face opposite was the immortal blood clan pretending to be one. After all, even the powerful Dongsheng immortal lord was replaced, so you can imagine how serious the infiltration of the undead blood clan into the immortal court is. In response to this major crisis, the top leaders of the immortal court also specially established an organization called Tianju Pavilion to examine the immortal officials of various departments. Once a suspicious person is found, he will be killed on the spot. In this mighty storm, almost all the immortal officials with certain real power in the immortal court were called over for questioning and examination. In the interrogation room, General Filong, you command 8 million heavenly soldiers, and you are responsible for guarding the south gate of heaven on weekdays. We don't need to tell you how important you are, right? It's all thanks to the attention of the immortal court that I have been able to reach this position today. You, the Tianju Pavilion, are too careless in your work. You forced the team to bring me here. How will your subordinates see me? Hee, it's because you didn't arrive on time. We notified you long ago, but you didn't take it seriously. Besides, special treatment is given in special times. You have to understand the difficulties of the immortal court. Okay, I don't want to hear so much nonsense, ask whatever you want to ask. I'm upright and I'm not afraid of anything. Bang, the sound of slapping the table sounded, and the interrogator scolded, General Filong, please correct your attitude. General Filong couldn't stand such grievances, and said with wide eyes, damn it, what attitude do you want? Didn't I cooperate well? Humph, he is so excited, he must have something to hide. Let's hold him down and search his soul directly. Who dares? I have made contributions to the immortal world and shed blood for the immortal court. You can't do this to me. Ah, in the interrogation room, a pig-killing scream came out. The immortal officials waiting for interrogation outside were trembling with fear, and beads of sweat overflowed from their foreheads, and they complained in their hearts. What a sin! During this period, an atmosphere of panic and depression shrouded the interior of the immortal court like a haze. In this high-pressure environment, everyone's nerves are highly tense. Tianju Pavilion is like a sharp sword, hanging over the heads of many immortal officials, who are deeply afraid that one day it will fall and their lives will be in danger. According to gossip, the pavilion master of Tianju Pavilion even made a harsh statement in public at the meeting, declaring that he would rather kill 1,000 people by mistake than let one go. Hearing this, the people below were trembling with fear. Some immortal officials could not stand this kind of treatment, and they expressed dissatisfaction and impeached the pavilion master of Tianju Pavilion. As a result, Tianju Pavilion, through this set of layered screening methods, really let them find out an undead blood clan lurking in the immortal court. Unfortunately, after the undead blood clan exposed his identity, he hanged himself on the spot as soon as possible. He used some strange secret technique that could make the flesh and blood decay and disappear instantly, making it impossible for the interrogators to stop it. After this incident, the position of Tianju Pavilion became more stable, and some dissatisfied rumors were suppressed. After all, they really found the undead blood clan. Although the method was a bit extreme, it was effective. Night falls. There is constant noise on the shore, and the coming and going of people seems particularly lively. Across the vast expanse of blue water, an elegantly decorated flower boat is sailing leisurely in the water. An old man wearing a bamboo hat and a straw raincoat is rowing the boat leisurely. Sir, do you want to take a boat? 10 top-grade immortal crystals each time, I will take you to the most beautiful lake in the Middle-earth Immortaland. Passing by the shore, the old man in the straw raincoat said with a smile. Here, a young man in brocade clothes paid the money readily and stepped onto this elegant flower boat. The flower boat is sailing slowly, and in the noisy atmosphere, there is a unique artistic conception. Sir, there are tea and cakes on the table, you can taste them by yourself. The old man in the straw raincoat reminded. No need, let's talk about business. The young man in brocade clothes said coldly. What business? I don't understand what you mean. The old man in the straw raincoat looked at a loss. Seeing the other party's reaction, the young man in brocade clothes took a deep breath. The king of heaven covers the tiger of earth. The old man in straw raincoat was silent for a while, a gleam of brilliance flashed in his eyes, and he said fiercely. Fuck your mother. The veins on the forehead of the young man in brocade clothes bulged, and he resisted the urge to get angry, and said with an ugly face. The code matches, are you satisfied now? This person is Yu Washang. He came here in disguise to meet with an undead vampire. This undead vampire, whose strength in the team is second only to the Blood Emperor of Chaos, has now changed his appearance and holds an important position in the Immortal Court, with a high position and power, and is unparalleled in the limelight. It's just that the other party insisted on setting up some bullshit code for meeting. Under helplessness, Yu Washang had to cooperate and do it. Then, it became the current situation. Yu Washang seriously suspected that the other party was deliberately scolding him in a roundabout way. The old man in the straw raincoat twitched his lips slightly, but then quickly suppressed them, with a stern face, and said solemnly. Now is a special period, everything should be done with caution, I have no choice but to do this. Yu Washang sneered at the corner of his mouth, and secretly said in his heart, I don't believe you. Ahem, let's talk about business. The old man in the straw raincoat was shameless and changed the subject. During this period, I have thoroughly muddied the water and concealed the identities of other accomplices as much as possible. It is difficult for the Immortal Court to discover the truth for a while. Yu Washang's eyes flashed with brilliance, and he nodded and said, you did a good job. I didn't expect this. The old man in the straw raincoat gritted his teeth and said, damn it, who knows that there is someone in your immortal world who can kill a freak like the Blood Emperor of Chaos. You should know that he is a peerless genius known as the Duke of Wushuang in our place, and he is also the 9th sequence of the Luantian tribe. Yu Washang looked strange. What Duke of Wushuang, the 9th sequence of the Luantian tribe? As an outsider, he didn't understand the value at all. But there is one thing, he knows the power of the Blood Emperor of Chaos. As a result, even such a top immortal emperor was killed. This is also the reason why Yu Washang mastered the demon fetus transformation art, but dared to develop silently. Because the water in the immortal world is really too deep. All this was done by Emperor Yi Tian. The last time we failed to capture the Beihan immortal realm, it was also because of him that the plan was ruined. Yu Washang said with indignation. Emperor Yi Tian, this guy is really capable. The old man in the straw raincoat gnashed his teeth with hatred, and his eyes were filled with fear and anger. Before coming, he thought that with the evildoer like Emperor Luantian Shui taking the lead, and with the cooperation of the insiders in the immortal realm, the lurking plan must have progressed smoothly. Who knew that there would be a serious mistake suddenly? This is so unexpected. Fortunately, in the end, it was a blessing in disguise. He accidentally got a high position and monopolized power in the immortal court, calling the wind and rain. When the situation here stabilizes, we can secretly notify the army outside the domain to launch an attack. At that time, the capture of the immortal realm is just around the corner. The old man in the straw raincoat had a flash of heat in his eyes, and his mood could not help but get excited. It's better this way, Yu Washang said in a deep voice. He didn't want any more trouble. By the way, don't use such cliched codes when you ask me out next time. Yu Washang stood up and left with a cold face, leaving this sentence before leaving to express his dissatisfaction. The old man in the straw raincoat turned a deaf ear to him, and a contemptuous smile appeared on his lips. Humph, you are a lowly human race, and you are qualified to make demands. Continue next time, for no other reason, just to disgust you deliberately. A few months later, the picket storm intensified. Strangely, the Immortal Court issued a major statement to the outside world. That is to hold the Immortal Court Summit, and all Class A Immortal officials must come to participate and discuss important matters. In other words, this is a top-level Immortal World Conference, and only Immortal Emperor-level strongmen can participate. Once this news came out, the immortal world was immediately in a sensation. Chapter 632, Buddha Emperor, an unexpected mount. All the monks in the immortal world know that this matter is not trivial and is related to the current invasion of the undead vampires. Obviously, the actions taken by the undead vampires this time sounded the alarm to Shanting. The senior officials of Immortal Court intend to bring all the immortal emperors together to conspire for big things. Eternal Immortal Sect, Master Yi, Immortal Court has important matters to discuss. We have to make a special trip there. Bu Qinfen said in a deep voice. During this period, after the treatment of King Mushroom, his body has fully recovered. Even after he was reborn, his cultivation level went further, and he officially entered the ranks of the Immortal Emperor 9th level. He also gained a deeper understanding of the way of the sword. The Tao Grade Sword intention was vaguely transforming in the direction of the Great Perfection. This gave Chinfin a lot. Surprised, I feel like a blessing in disguise. It just so happens that I also meet the conditions and can participate in this Shanting Summit together. Li Ruotong said seriously. She wanted to take this opportunity to find out who was blocking it in the first place, causing her application for the Immortal Lord to come to nothing. She has always remembered this account. If the domain protection formation could have been activated earlier, the Northern Han Immortal Domain could have reduced more casualties. Therefore, Li Ruotong hated the guy who was behind the scenes. Is it the Immortal Garden? Yi Junlin raised his eyebrows. This is the strongest force in the immortal world, dominating the 5 immortal realms, and among them are the earliest creatures from the ancient Kunlun realm. Taishang Lu, who had left him the inheritance of Immortal Island, was also there. However, Yi Junlin, who has a holy body, is completely able to walk sideways in the immortal world. He believed that even Immortal Court seemed to have nothing to look forward to. Ding, congratulations to the host for triggering the sign-in task and completing the sign-in at the Shanting Summit. The sign-in reward, Kang Yuan's sword is upgraded to the Adult Imperial Sword. Close black lens bracket. At this moment, the system prompt sounded in my mind. Yi Junlin was stunned, a light flashing in his eyes. The Human Emperor Sword, when you hear this name, it sounds awesome. Yi Junlin quickly checked the information on the Human Emperor Sword and found that it was still a holy sword. That's right, as long as he signs in at the Shanting Summit, he can get a genuine sacred artifact. The Immortal Emperor's weapon has been upgraded to a holy weapon. The sign-in reward this time is very good. Yi Junlin was very satisfied. Since his Kang Yuan sword suffered a heavy blow, a crack has appeared on the sword body, and its power has been damaged. If he can use this to upgrade to the Human Emperor Sword, not only can it be repaired, but the grade will also be upgraded, and earth-shaking things will happen. Change. This is called replacing a shotgun with a cannon. After making up his mind, Yi Junlin agreed, well, let's go. Because of the special nature of this time, he did not take Kanglang Jun and Big Mushroom King with him, but went all out with Bu Chinfin and Li Ruotong. Middle-earth Immortaland. It is the center of the immortal world with outstanding people and great luck. As a superpower in the immortal world, Immortal Court has its own official path in the Middle-earth Immortaland. This official road is also called the Heavenly Road by the outside world. If you want to go to the Immortal Court, you have to set foot on the Heavenly Road. Along the way, you will go through layers of checks and identity verifications, and you will not be able to reach the Immortal Court until the end of the Heavenly Road. If an unrelated person, such as a monk without the Immortal Court's establishment, enters the Heavenly Road without authorization, he will be severely punished if caught. Therefore, monks who are qualified to walk on the road to heaven have a natural sense of superiority in their hearts, feeling that they are ahead above other ordinary monks. In order to expand its team, Shanting recruits talents from outside every year. Many monks pass many tests and go through untold hardships before they can finally find a decent position with a staff. Although the monthly salary of the immortal officials who are established at the grassroots level is untouchable, they are more stable and have face among relatives and friends. What's more, if there is an Immortal Court establishment, it is equivalent to an extra layer of personal protection outside. Other monks don't dare to cause harm to it at will. After all, I have the support of Shanting behind me. Because the benefits of joining are great, the competition is very fierce. Countless monks come every year to fight for a spot. It is no exaggeration to say that if a heavenly soldier walks out of the Immortal Court, all small and medium-sized sects and aristocratic families must treat him with respect. If a heavenly general with military power walks out, any large force will treat him with courtesy. This is enough to prove the transcendent status of Immortal Court in the minds of the monks. As the news of the Immortal Court Summit spread, all the immortal emperors from the 5 immortal domains mobilized and rushed towards the destination together. Many people even waited on both sides of the Heavenly Road early in order to catch a glimpse of the Immortal Emperor. On the road to heaven, powerful men with the cultivation of the Immortal Emperor appeared one after another. They were both men and women, with different costumes, each showing their powerful demeanor. The way they travel is also very stylish. Some are pulling carts in Kowloon, showing off their dominance, some are standing on the golden winged rock with their hands behind their hands, full of style, and some are in a huge ship comparable to a palace, with extremely luxurious decoration. All in all, it's dazzling and shocking. Oh my god, if the immortal court had not held this summit, I would never have seen so many immortal emperors in my life. Look, that's the Fengling Sword Emperor. A being respected by sword cultivators in the immortal world. But I heard that he was defeated by immortal Yi with only 2 fingers before. Shish, don't let him hear it. This is a matter between the bosses. Looking at the figures of these immortal emperors, everyone was talking a lot, with deep awe in their eyes. Look, that's Sakyamuni, the holy monk of the 10,000 Buddhist sect, and he's also the #1 meditator in the immortal world. Isn't that the holy monk Sakyamuni who is known as the Buddha Emperor? Hiss, what kind of immortal beast is under his mount? It has such a strong aura, I've never seen it before. Amid the noise, countless eyes were focused on an old monk wearing a cassock and with a solemn appearance. He closed his eyes, put his hands together, and sat cross-legged on his mount alone. The sacred Buddha light was blooming all over his body. There was also a strange image of a goddess scattering flowers in the air. The surrounding Buddhist sounds were lingering, and it seemed that the monks were chanting scriptures. Seeing this scene, many Zen practitioners who came here for his reputation were so excited that their eyes were filled with tears and they worshipped him. I have seen the holy monk. The Zen practitioners looked respectful and their eyes were fanatical. This is the first Zen practitioner in the immortal world, and he is also the master of Buddhism. It is not an exaggeration to be called the Buddha Emperor. But the Sakya saint monk is relatively low-key. He once declared to the outside world that he did not need to be called the Buddha Emperor, so everyone also called him the saint monk very tactfully. The appearance of the Sakya saint monk caused a huge sensation, and his influence instantly overshadowed the surrounding immortal emperors. After all, in terms of identity and status, ordinary immortal emperors can't compare at all. If it weren't for the fact that the Sakya saint monk was in the Central Earth immortal realm, if he was in other immortal realms, he would definitely be pushed to the position of the immortal lord. There is no way. Who made the immortal lord of the Central Earth immortal realm the leader of the immortal court, Lu Taishang? At this moment, the most eye-catching thing is not only the Sakya saint monk, but also his unusual mount. Compared with the mounts of other immortal emperors, the mount of the Sakya saint monk is infinitely close to the realm of the immortal emperor. It exudes a vast aura along the way, which makes many cultivators tremble with fear. At the same time, Yi Junlin and his party also set foot on the heavenly road. When he saw the Sakya saint monk, Vu Chinfan snorted coldly, "This old bald donkey is really pretentious." Although he said so, there was a strong fear in his eyes. Because the strength of the Sakya saint monk is also among the top-tier strongmen, and he has been no worse than him for a long time. "I've heard of him, he's called the Buddha Emperor," Li Ruotong said solemnly. Suddenly, she felt a hint of danger and subconsciously looked at the silver-haired young man next to her. Her face suddenly changed in fear. "Yi, fellow Taoist Yi, what's wrong with you?" Vu Chinfan also sensed something was wrong and looked over. He was frightened and took 2 steps back. His scalp was numb and he said, "Master Yi, you." Yi Junlin's silver hair fluttered, and his whole body was filled with a terrifying aura. His eyes were filled with infinite anger, and he stared at the holy monk Sakya. To be precise, he was staring at his mount. Because the other party's mount was a pure-blooded Kunpeng. Yi Junlin recognized it at a glance. It was the long-lost Akun. At this moment, Akun, who had manifested his true form, had lost his previous cleverness and liveliness. His eyes were full of numbness, as if his soul had been taken away. He worked hard like a walking corpse. Chapter 633, Evidence. Just do it. Yi Junlin didn't expect to see his long-lost mount on such an occasion. In his impression, Akun was full of energy, his eyes were shining, and he was quite spiritual. However, now, his face was numb, like a puppet obeying instructions, only knowing how to carry the holy monk Sakyamuni forward. This scene made Yi Junlin feel angry inside. Before Li Ruotong and Vu Chinfan could figure out the situation, Yi Junlin stepped forward to block their way and shouted coldly. Wait, the sudden change also caused the faces of the monks present to change, and there was deep fear in their eyes. In this immortal world, someone actually dares to block the way of Emperor Buddha. You are too brave. Countless gazes gathered from all directions, including the immortal emperor, who also stopped and cast a surprised look. Sakyamuni seemed to sense something. His eyelids twitched suddenly and he opened his eyes. His eyes were as deep as the stars. There was a slight change in Gujing Wubo's face and he recited the Buddha's name. Amitabha, may I ask why Master Yi blocked the path of this poor monk for no reason? I wonder where I offended you. Without Yi Junlin introducing himself, Sakyamuni monk guessed his identity. At this time, Holy monk Sakyamuni was also confused. He didn't know why Yi Junlin blocked his way, and he could clearly feel that the other party was angry. Hiss, it turns out he is the Yi Immortal Lord of the Northern Cold Immortal Realm. Hearing this, everyone gasped and looked at the silver-haired young man with awe in their eyes. If we want to say who is the most famous genius in the immortal world now, it must be the immortal Lord Beihan. Since Hengkong was born, he has been as dazzling as the sun. All the outstanding figures of this era seem to have become his foil and eclipsed him. He is a household name in the immortal world and the most popular superpower. However, this Yi Shenju forcibly stopped Sakyamuni, the holy monk known as the Buddha Emperor, in full view of the public. This shocked all the monks and made them confused. Yi Junlin said coldly, "Where does your mount come from?" Sakyamuni was stunned for a moment and had a bad premonition in his heart, but he still replied calmly. "This evil beast has a naughty nature." When the poor monk saw it, he found that it was the only one who could control all the monsters and was causing trouble. Therefore, the poor monk took action and subdued it. Later, in order to make up for the mistakes it had made before, it became a loyal slave from then on. Buddhism, no more killing. After hearing what happened, the monks were deeply touched. They clasped their hands together, showed piety on their faces, and said from the bottom of their hearts, "My Buddha is compassionate." Other interested people looked strange, feeling that there must be something fishy. Wait a minute, this seems to be the legendary mythical beast Kunpeng. I have only seen descriptions of it in ancient books before. At this time, an old man suddenly remembered something, pointed at the mount of Sakyamuni monk, and said in a voiceless voice, "The mythical beast Kunpeng." As soon as these words came out, it was like a stone stirring up 1,000 waves. The whole place was shocked. In the immortal world, apart from the Dragon Clan, Phoenix Clan, and the unshakable Imperial Clan among the Monster Clan, there is another race that has long since disappeared, and that is Kunpeng. Rumor has it that Kunpeng is extremely rare in number, but it has huge growth potential and is invincible in combat power at the same level. It could even overwhelm the Dragon Clan back then, leaving the Phoenix Clan unable to hold its head high. It is recognized as the supreme clan by the Monster Clan. The strange thing is that, perhaps due to some kind of disaster, the Kunpeng clan has since disappeared in the long river of history, and future generations can only see some records about them in ancient books. Therefore, when the holy monk Sakyamuni appeared driving Kunpeng, many monks were frightened by it, but they did not know its origin for a while. At this moment, someone openly revealed its identity, which surprised everyone. The eyes looking at the mount were full of shock. "Are you kidding me? That is the mythical beast Kunpeng. Hasn't it been extinct for a long time? Why did it appear again?" It is said that the Kunpeng tribe does not need to deliberately cultivate. Once they reach adulthood, they can automatically be promoted to the realm of the immortal emperor. They are simply the darlings of God and the mounts and immortal pets that countless monks dream of. Of course, because of the superiority of the race, Kunpeng has an extremely arrogant character. Even if he is far stronger than them, it is difficult for them to recognize him as their master. Therefore, when they saw that Sakyamuni not only discovered Kunpeng, but also subdued it as a mount, all the immortal emperors showed envy and jealousy in their eyes. "This old bald donkey is really lucky. Hee. Yi Junlin didn't believe his words at all, and sneered, "You know, this was originally my mount, but it was later separated from me for some reason, and you were lucky enough to take it." What? Everyone's expressions changed drastically. Was there such a coincidence? It turns out that this was fellow Taoist Yi's mount before. No wonder he reacted like this. Li Ruotong was very surprised. Sakyamuni's face was moved, a look of surprise flashed in his eyes, and he felt vaguely faint in his heart. In his mind, the previous scene appeared. The young man's unwilling and angry voice was still ringing in his ears. "Old bald donkey, if you treat me like this, one day my master will help me take revenge." In the 10,000 Buddhas sect, a young man with a middle-parted head looked in pain and was pinned to the ground by a big golden hand, unable to move. The old monk standing in front of him turned a deaf ear and continued to chant sutras. The Buddha's voice is vast and contains the power of tranquility and peace, as if it can make a treacherous and evil person put down his butcher knife and become a Buddha immediately. During the process, the young man showed great pain, but he still struggled to support himself, retaining a trace of reason and unwilling to give in. Until 49 days later, the boy's expression gradually became numb. From fierce resistance to final obedience, he was reduced to a puppet who only knew how to obey orders. Thinking of this past incident, Sakyamuni felt very regretful. At that time, he didn't take the other person's master seriously at all. He thought the other party was trying to scare him. Furthermore, as the Buddha Emperor, his status is so transcendent. How many people in the entire immortal world dare to be his enemy? It is precisely because of this that Sakyamuni monk chose to ignore it. Result: never expected it. The master the other party talks about is actually the current Northern Han immortal lord, the powerful Emperor Yi Tian of the immortal realm. Sakyamuni monk's mood was very complicated, including shock and deep regret. If I had known better, I wouldn't have ridden this Kunpeng out to show off, and would have stayed in the 10,000 Buddhist sect as the guardian beast. That's right, even though he learned that this Kunpeng was originally Yi Junline's mount, Sakyamuni didn't feel any guilt in his heart. The only thing he regretted was that Yi Junline, the original owner, discovered it. After all, any monk in the world who discovers such a divine beast and spends a lot of effort to subdue it must have the intention of taking it out to show off. Sakyamuni is no exception. At the Immortal Court Summit, the immortal emperors gathered together. If he didn't show off at this time, how could he be worthy of the Kunpeng he had conquered? Unexpectedly, the car overturned on the spot. Sakyamuni felt very embarrassed in his heart, but he has always been very thick-skinned in Zen practice. What's more, he was also the leader of Buddhism and Taoism known as the Buddha Emperor. Even in the face of Yi Junline, the rightful master, who asked him to accuse him, he could still pretend to be unfazed and calm. Amitabha. At this time, holy monk Sakyamuni stood up slowly, stood facing the wind, looked at the silver-haired figure in front of him, and said in a deep voice, "Master Yi, your words are too far-fetched. The poor monk is not an unreasonable person. If it is really yours, the poor monk should return it. But do you have any evidence to prove that this Kunpeng was yours before?" Mount. While talking, an imperceptible sparkle flashed in the eyes of Sakyamuni. After all, this is the mythical beast Kunpeng, with huge potential. Since it was conquered by him, it means it is destined to Buddhism. How can it be confused and surrendered just by the other party's few words? Therefore, the holy monk Sakyamuni refused to give in, and in turn beat him up, implying that Yi Junline was deliberately making excuses but actually wanted to take away his mount. Everyone was in an uproar instantly. Of course they knew what Sakyamuni meant. If Yi Junline had no evidence, he would definitely be defeated in this dispute. Holy monk Sakyamuni, immortal master Yi is giving you a chance. Don't be ignorant and return the mount quickly. There is still room for easing this matter. Bu Chinfen stood up and said in a deep voice. It's the immortal master Bu from the Nanshan immortal territory. Seeing Bu Chinfen stepping forward to put pressure, the expressions on everyone's faces were wonderful. This is the #1 sword cultivator in the immortal world, the heavenly sword emperor. The weight of his words is no less than that of Sakyamuni. Bu Chinfen naturally believed what Yi Junline said, and was very disdainful of Sakyamuni monk's behavior of pretending to be confused. He immediately came forward to express his position and advise the other party to understand. Sakyamuni's face darkened. He didn't expect that the #1 sword cultivator in the immortal world would also come in and get involved in this matter. Moreover, the other party's aura was stronger than before. Even so, Sakyamuni refused to give in. After all, so many people were watching. He still stood from a moral point of view. If he was willing to give up this Kunpeng, how would the world of Zen practitioners view him if this incident spread out? Bu Immortal Master, you must be reasonable. If Yi Immortal Master can prove that this Kunpeng is his, then the poor monk will return it. But if you can't prove it, then don't blame the poor monk for not caring about his face. Sakyamuni monk's tone gradually became colder and his attitude was very tough. The monks nodded, feeling that Sakyamuni was right. That's right, the holy monk has made it very clear. If you, immortal master Yi, can't produce evidence, don't slander the holy monk with empty words. A young and energetic monk stood up and angrily shouted. The words just fell. The monk exploded on the spot and turned into a cloud of blood mist floating in the air. The whole place was dead silent. Yi Junline slowly retracted his hand, his expression cold and indifferent, as if he had just crushed a noisy little insect to death. The meditation practitioners were so scared that they were as silent as cicadas, with a hint of fear in their eyes. The other immortal emperors shook their heads. Put it this way, this is all a conflict between big bosses. You, an ant who is not even an immortal, dare to jump out and scream, you deserve to be crushed to death. Sakyamuni sage sneered secretly in his heart, but with a look of compassion on his face, he clasped his hands together and sighed. Amitabha, sin. He was betting that Yi Junline had no evidence. After all, this Kunpeng, after being transformed by his Buddhist teachings, would not listen to anyone else's orders except him. Based on this alone, holy monk Sakyamuni didn't think Yi Junlin could snatch Kunpeng away from him. Since there is no evidence, we can only give up. He can even use this to publicize it, destroy the other party's reputation, and improve his own reputation. Just when the holy monk Sakyamuni had a wishful thinking in his mind, a strong sense of crisis suddenly filled my heart, and the hairs all over my body stood up. An icy chill rushed along my spine and straight to the top of my head, as if my skull was about to be lifted. In the pupils of his eyes, an enlarging fist was reflected. You, Sakyamuni was shocked and angry, with a look of disbelief on his face. Because the owner of the fist is Yi Junlin. Chapter 634, that punch astonished everyone. Yi Junlin could see that a Kun couldn't recognize him now, and his mind was confused. At this time, if he follows Sakyamuni monk's intention, he will fall into the opponent's trap. Therefore, Yi Junlin simply did the opposite and directly lifted the chessboard and attacked the chess player. Evidence. Labor and capital are invincible, why do I still need to tell you evidence? I want to see if it's your old bald donkey mouth that's tougher, or my fists that are tougher. Holy monk Sakyamuni also didn't expect it. He didn't expect that Yi Junlin didn't follow the routine at all. While he was shocked, a surge of anger rose in his heart. Yi, do you really think this poor monk is afraid of you? Sakyamuni believes that with his strength, if he were to fight alone, except for the undefeated immortal Emperor Tong Wudi, there would be no other person in the entire immortal world who could defeat him. The reason why he had a good talk with Yi Junlin was because Yi Junlin gave him a really strong feeling. It was a kind of respect for the strong, but it didn't mean that he would be timid. Master Yi Xian, you have gone too far. The holy monk Sakyamuni shouted angrily, not forgetting to occupy the moral height in his words. Boom, a vast and powerful aura rose into the sky, and a shadow of a solemn Buddha appeared behind him, with a look of compassion on his face, as if he wanted to save all sentient beings. In an instant, a giant golden hand appeared, the Buddha's light shone everywhere, and it rumbled towards Yi Junlin. Upon closer inspection, this golden giant hand is composed of thousands of palms, each palm is marked with a swastika, exuding overwhelming power. The Great Thousand Buddha Mudra. This is one of Sakyamuni's most powerful moves. At this moment, facing Yi Junlin's first attack, he used it mercilessly. This old bald donkey is hiding his secrets. Bu Qinfen was shocked. With his current strength, it is estimated that it will be difficult for him to compete with him. He is probably a super strong man comparable to the Blood Emperor of Chaotic Sky. However, this Thousand Buddha hand seal was destroyed by Yi Junlin's fist and turned into nothing. Violent energy overflowed, and the entire sky road was trembling violently. How is that possible? Sakyamuni, who was originally full of confidence, turned pale when he saw this scene. Before he could recover from the shock, Yi Junlin's fist had already arrived. There is no fluctuation of immortal power on the fist, giving people an unpretentious and simple feeling. But the holy monk Sakyamuni had a sense of seeing a great terror. For a moment, his whole body was filled with chills, and his heart almost stopped beating. No, stop it quickly. Fudomeu bell. With a bang, a thick golden bell covered with Sanskrit words emerged, firmly covering the holy monk Sakyamuni, filled with a majestic meaning. Who would have imagined that as soon as the golden bell jar appeared, it was crushed to pieces by that fist, like a bubble bursting at the touch of a button. This, Sakyamuni was stunned on the spot, as if his heart was shaking. All the methods he used were unable to withstand the opponent's punch. This outrageous situation once made the holy monk Sakyamuni think he was dreaming. The next second, Sakyamuni was knocked out, his face was sunken, blood flowed rapidly, and his head was buzzing. The force was so strong that he almost lost consciousness. Boom! Sakyamuni was knocked out of the sky, smashing countless mountains along the way, and finally landed on a hillside 100,000 miles away, creating a huge deep pit. The monks were stunned and their mouths opened in an O shape. What did they see? The dignified Buddha Emperor was punched and flew away. Life or death is unknown. Hiss! The immortal emperors present took a deep breath, their faces full of disbelief, and their eyes looking at Yi Junlin were full of horror. They originally thought that Yi Junlin would have no choice but to give up because he couldn't produce evidence. They really didn't expect that he would take action directly. What's more, they didn't expect that he would punch the holy monk Sakyamuni away in the end. Before this, they had always thought that the two were equally powerful. Once they fought, it would be extremely fierce and indistinguishable. As a result, it ended so quickly. Simply incredible. Seeing this scene, Li Ruotong and Bu Qinfen were not surprised, and thought it was reasonable. After all, they had seen with their own eyes the scene where even the powerful heavenly Tao was scared away by the silver-haired young man with a punch. No matter how powerful this holy monk Sakyamuni is, how can he compare with the heavenly way in the immortal world? Yi Junlin brushed down his sleeves and revealed a disdainful sneer at the corner of his mouth. I will destroy all your Buddhist dharma with one punch. After condensing the holy body, Yi Junlin can now defeat invincible opponents in the immortal world without using any magical powers, relying purely on the power of his physical body. Knocking away Sakyamuni monk with one punch is a normal operation. At this time, Akan didn't react at all. He was still in his original position, with a trace of confusion in his eyes. Yi Junlin looked distressed. Akun, just wait, I will let you recover. He deliberately restrained the force of the punch he just made, otherwise one punch would be enough to blow up Sakyamuni on the spot. The reason why I didn't kill this person was because he was still useful. At the same time, holy monk Sakyamuni flew out of the pit and staggered to the ground. His sunken face was distorted for a while, and then slowly returned to its original shape. The old face with blood stains was full of fear, and he was breathing heavily. There is lingering fear in my heart. That punch just now gave him a great mental impact. I can't resist it at all. You know, after years of hard work, he has recondensed a heart of Prajna Buddha, and his Zen has reached the level of Taoism. With his strength, he is definitely at the top level of the super first line, and is the recognized leader of the immortal world. The Sakya monk asked himself, except for Tong Wudi who was favored by the immortal world, no one in the whole immortal world is his opponent. However, today, his confidence was shattered. Impossible, I don't believe that there will be someone in this immortal world who can have such a powerful force, just with one punch. The Sakya monk was pale and sweating. Swish, Yi Junlin arrived in an instant, standing upright in the sky with his hands behind his back, looking down at him as if he was looking at an ant, his silver-white hair fluttering slowly, his aura was unprecedentedly powerful, like a supreme god king. The Sakya monk's scalp was numb, and he couldn't help but take 2 steps back. The calmness just now disappeared, replaced by a kind of timidity. Answer me, do you still need evidence now? Yi Junlin's expression was cold and his tone was oppressive. The Sakya saint monk clenched his teeth, his facial muscles twitched, he wanted to refute, but the punch just now had knocked out all his confidence. After all, one punch was enough, if there were a few more punches, I'm afraid. After a while, in front of everyone, the Sakya saint monk seemed to have suffered a great humiliation, and said with difficulty. No need. When he said this, the Sakya saint monk seemed to have been drained of all his energy and spirit, and suddenly aged many years. At this moment, he really regretted why he took Kunpeng out to show off. Chapter 635 Buddha Emperor, completely honest. Under Yi Junlin's absolute strength, the Sakyamuni monk, known as the Buddha Emperor, simply bowed his head and gave in, not daring to speak harshly anymore. HMPH, if you are sensible, go back with me immediately and change my mount back to its original state, otherwise I will not only kill you, the old bald donkey, but also destroy your orthodoxy in the immortal world. Yi Junlin's tone was very strong and he meant what he said. You, Sakyamuni trembled, as if he was poured cold water from head to toe by a basin of ice water. When he felt grief and anger in his heart, there was also a deep powerlessness. Originally, he wanted to move out of Shanting, but then he thought about it, the other party was already so strong, Shanting would definitely turn a blind eye. Therefore, you must compromise if you want to survive. Immediately, under the astonished gaze of everyone, Yi Junlin stepped forward with his hands behind his back, while Sakyamuni monk followed behind with a defeated look on his face. Holy monk, the eyes of those meditating at the scene were red, their noses were sore, and their faith was hit hard. The Supreme Buddha Emperor in their minds was defeated with one punch today. Sakyamuni felt that he had lost all face and his face felt hot. Looking at the back in front of him, he really couldn't understand why they were both immortal emperors, so there was such a big gap. It's simply unbelievable. Hey, why bother, I've already advised you. Bu Qinfen sighed with pity in his eyes. Putting it into perspective a little bit, he felt that Sakyamuni was really unjustly defeated. He had been silently improving his strength in the immortal world for these years. He originally thought he was almost invincible, but when he went out he met a super freak and was almost punched. Hit the shit. Tragic, really miserable, all the immortal emperors showed fear on their faces. There had long been rumors that immortal Master Beihan was very powerful. After seeing him today, he still felt that the rumors were too conservative. This is more than just strong. It's simply outrageous. Moreover, his style is extremely domineering. He will snatch other people's mounts in the street and beat them if they don't want to give them to him. Even the Buddha Emperor cannot escape. Let's get started. Yi Junlin ordered. If Akun cannot recover, he will definitely punch this old bald donkey to death, and then bloodbath the entire 10,000 Buddhist sect. Please wait patiently, Lord Yi Xian. Sakyamuni, even though he had all kinds of resistance in his heart, still gave in to reality. Then, he raised his palm and emitted Buddha's light, like a small sun, shining through the sky and shining on Akun's eyebrows. He muttered words and recited scriptures. Akun looked confused at first, and then in pain. His huge body was shaking violently, and a pair of wings that looked like clouds hanging from the sky stirred up a mighty wind. If an accident occurs, you know the consequences. Yi Junlin's face was gloomy, and a cold light burst out from his eyes. Sakyamuni's scalp was numb and he did not dare to be careless. This Kunpeng has already been transformed by him, so it is very difficult to reverse it. Fortunately, the person who tied the bell still needed to untie it, so he naturally had a way with his profound Buddhist teachings. Half an hour later, Akun gradually returned to normal, his eyes became clear and spiritual, and he was no longer as numb as before. Because the first thing he saw was Sakyamuni, Akun was so frightened that he instinctively wanted to run away, but a familiar voice stopped him, making him freeze in place as if he was using a body-fixing technique. Akun, seeing that the other party returned to normal, Yi Junlin had a smile on his face. Akun looked at the silver-haired young man in disbelief. After confirming again and again that it was not a dream, he said in surprise, "Master." Immediately, Kunpeng's form transformed into a standard one. The young man wearing overalls threw himself excitedly into Yi Junlin's arms. Yi Junlin touched his head and said with a smile, "I hope you're fine." See this situation. The expressions of the monks changed, and they were ashamed. They originally thought that Yi Junlin was jealous and deliberately found an excuse to snatch Sakyamuni's mount, but they never thought that this Kunpeng actually belonged to someone else before. This is embarrassing. Sakyamuni felt very uncomfortable, and his heart seemed to be bleeding. The duck that reached its mouth flew away like this. Who can bear it? Master Yi Xian, this is all a misunderstanding. If I had known that it was your mount, the poor monk would never have made such a big mistake. Sakyamuni quickly explained. Yi Junlin ignored him, but asked the young man seriously, "Akun, tell me honestly, are you really like what he said, that you controlled all the monsters and brought disaster to one party?" After hearing this, Akun shook his head like a rattle. "No. Absolutely not. I just came here for the first time, and I accidentally entered the territory of the 10,000 Buddhist sect, and that's why I was captured by this old bald donkey." Speaking of this, Akun's face showed grief and anger, and his teeth were grinding with hatred. He originally thought that he could become the king and hegemon in the immortal world, but unexpectedly, at the beginning of Tianbang, he was captured by Sakyamuni and used as a mount. I see. Yi Junlin's eyes showed a hint of coldness. "Old bald donkey, what else do you have to say?" Sakyamuni had cold sweat on his forehead. I'm really sorry, this poor monk was confused for a moment. It was a trivial matter to be embarrassed when his fabricated excuse was exposed. What he was most afraid of was that Yi Junlin would attack again. Yi Junlin sneered, "Is it useful to apologize to me? It's better to apologize to my mount. If I don't get his forgiveness, I can't guarantee what I will do next." The corners of Sakyamuni's mouth twitched, and he endured the humiliation in his heart. He came to the young man with the head in the middle and begged for forgiveness in a humble voice, "Little donor, please forgive the sins of this poor monk." Akun glanced at Yi Junlin beside him, and suddenly felt confident. He slapped the old monk Sakyamuni on the old face and cursed. "Old bald donkey, Master Kun wants you to improve your memory." Snap! The holy monk Sakyamuni was slapped in the face in public. Everyone was stunned. Sakyamuni's face was twitching, and there was an unstoppable murderous intention rising in his heart. Although it was not very harmful to him, it was extremely insulting. But after seeing Yi Junlin with a sneer on his face, Sakyamuni monk shivered with fright, and his murderous intention immediately dissipated. "This slap will make you blind." As Akun said, he raised his palm again and pulled it away. It landed unceremoniously on the face of the holy monk Sakyamuni and scolded. "With this slap, I will slap you for telling lies, you are so shameless." This was not over yet. Akun slapped the other party again and shouted with great momentum. With this slap, I will make you defiant and self-righteous. His right hand continued to be raised, but it never came down. At this moment, Akan seemed to have a brain jam. He was at a loss for words and looked embarrassed. This slap will hit you, ah! Sakyamuni was about to breathe a sigh of relief when he received another slap on the face, even harder than before. It doesn't matter, you deserve to be beaten anyway. Akun was quite embarrassed and slapped Sakyamuni monk hundreds of times in one breath, making loud slaps. The expressions on everyone's faces when they saw this outrageous scene were very wonderful. Sakyamuni was even more crazy in his heart and almost ran away on the spot. After all, being slapped in the face by a mount in front of everyone, but being unable to resist, was simply more uncomfortable than killing him. No, stop it quickly. Seeing their beloved leader being treated like this, many monks shed tears and shouted in despair. It wasn't until his hands went numb that Akan finally felt relieved. His face was full of energy, and he felt quite elated. So cool, so cool. The veins on Sakyamuni's forehead were exposed, the muscles on his face were twitching wildly, and his whole body was shaking with anger. If he could turn back time, he would choose to slap this evil beast to death. But now, it's too late. Seeing that Akun did not continue to slap him in the face, the holy monk Sakyamuni quickly seized the opportunity, lowered his head and pretended to be humble and said, "Little donor, this poor monk already knows that he is wrong. Please calm down." Akun was feeling happy and didn't want to embarrass himself too much. He put his hands on his hips and raised his chest. "Forget it, Master Kun won't care about you, an old bald ass." Sakyamuni seemed to have been pardoned and said, "Amitabha, thank you so much to the little benefactor for forgiving the sins of this poor monk." Then, he looked at Yi Junlin cautiously. "Master Yi, look at this." Yi Junlin waved his hands as if to shoo away flies, and said impatiently, "In that case, get out of here." "Thank you, immortal Master Yi, for your mercy." The holy monk Sakyamuni has great patience. Even when he was humiliated to this extent, he still kept a smile on his face, for fear of making Yi Junlin unhappy. At this point, he didn't have the face to stay any longer, so he hurried away at an extremely fast speed. It seems that he has no plans to go to the Immortal Court Summit. Holy monk. The monks were filled with grief as if they were mourning their heirs. Seeing this scene, all the immortal emperors felt quite gloating about their misfortune. Countless monks showed contempt on their faces, secretly saying that they deserved it. The reversal just now also allowed them to see the true face of Sakyamuni. No need to wash at all. This old bald donkey should have a better memory now. Bu Chinfin sneered. What he couldn't stand the most was the hypocritical faces of Buddhists. "Master Yi Xian, do you still remember Han?" At this time, a thin middle-aged man stepped forward. His eyes were as sharp as a sword, and there was a majestic sword intent flowing on his body. At this moment, with awe on his face, he walked up to Yi Junlin and bowed his hands in a respectful manner. "This person is the Fengali Sword Emperor, Han Chujian." Yi Junlin smiled. "It's only been so long, how could I not remember? I still remember that in Nishizawa's immortal domain, there was a conflict over the Tengu clan, and in the end the other party was defeated by him with 2 fingers. Han Chujian was overjoyed, as if it was a great honor to be remembered by Yi Junlin. Yi Junlin just punched the holy monk Sakyamuni to defeat him, which really shocked him deeply. He never thought that this man's strength was so abnormal. In other words, when I competed with him before, I only used a small part of my strength. Thinking of this, Han Chujian's heart was filled with fear and a sense of awe. So, take this opportunity to get close to her. Seeing that Han Chujian was able to strike up a conversation with Yi Junlin, all the immortal emperors looked extremely envious. Yi Junlin asked casually, "By the way, how is your son? Is he being well disciplined?" Han Chujian looked solemn, patted his chest and said with determination, "Master Yi Xian, please rest assured, that unfilial son has been made obedient by me. Now he has to practice sword hard every day. If he doesn't obey, he will be hung up and beaten by me." Yi Junlin said with a straight face, "You have gone too far. How can you hang me up and beat me? Can't you try something new? He will get tired of the punishment method that is too simple." Han Chujian was stunned. Is this going to happen? "Yes, believe me," Yi Junlin said firmly. "Since Lord Yi Xian has spoken, Han must go back and study it carefully." Han Chujian said seriously. Yi Junlin smiled happily. "In this way, your son will become a great person." At the same time, in the strictly guarded cave of the Han family, A young man in brocade clothes who was taking advantage of his father's absence shuddered inexplicably, and a bad premonition emerged in his heart. Chapter 636. The Arrogant Members of Tianju Pavilion. After a brief greeting, Yi Junlin and his companions continued their journey to the Immortal Court. However, this time, a kun was the mount. Rumble. Amidst countless shocked gazes, a mythical creature that looked like a giant whale flapped its wings to control the majestic airflow and flew to the end of the heavenly road at a very fast speed. It is indeed the legendary divine beast Kunpeng. This speed is beyond the reach of many immortal emperors. Bu Qinfen said in surprise. If this Kunpeng really breaks through to the immortal emperor realm in the future, I am afraid that even I will not be able to catch up. Li Ruotong sighed. Hearing this, a kun could not help but say, "Woman, please call me Master Kun from now on." What? Li Ruotong's face froze, and her beautiful eyes showed astonishment. Yi Junlin said unhappily, "Go away, don't be disrespectful." Oh, a kun was honest now and gave up in a huff. For some reason, he just liked the feeling of being called Master Kun. Fellow Taoist Yi's mount is very interesting, Li Ruotong said with a strange look. Yi Junlin said helplessly, his personality is more erratic. Master, when I break through the realm of the immortal emperor, what title do you think I should give myself? A kun suddenly became interested and asked curiously. Now that his bloodline power has been completely activated, and he has swallowed a lot of natural treasures in the 10,000 Buddhist sect, he will soon be able to break through to the immortal emperor without waiting until adulthood. A kun knew that after breaking through the immortal emperor, he would have his own title, so he also wanted one, so he asked Yi Junlin for advice. It must be said that the Sakya saint monk really lost both his wife and his soldiers. After he subdued a kun, he did not hesitate to spend a lot of money, and devoted a lot of effort and resources to cultivate him crazily. I thought that from now on, I would have a cool mount and a super fighter, but this time I went out to show off, and all my efforts became someone else's dowry. Hearing this, Yi Junlin said without hesitation, "Do you still need to think about this? You can just call yourself Emperor Kun. It's simple and easy to remember, and it fits your identity." Emperor Kun. A kun pondered the two words carefully, his eyes burst into a bright light, and his face showed an excited expression. "Okay, then I'll call you Emperor Kun." At this time, he didn't know that this name would spread throughout the vast universe in the future and become a legendary existence worshipped by countless monsters. Not long after, the group arrived at the end of the heavenly road. At the top of the sky, the towering immortal court stood in the air, blooming with billions of immortal lights, and the auspicious air was steaming, sacred and incomparable. The south gate of heaven was guarded by a large number of heavenly soldiers, each wearing silver-white armor, holding a war weapon, with a straight look and a straight posture like a spear. The leader was a burly, hairy middle-aged man wearing gorgeous golden armor with a mighty flying dragon pattern engraved on his chest. His face was pale at this time, and he was forcing a forced smile to receive every immortal emperor who came in. The middle-aged man was General Filong, who was responsible for guarding the south gate of heaven. General Filong had completely lost his temper after the last private punishment by Tianju Pavilion. He immediately admitted his weakness and surrendered. In addition, his identity was not suspected, so he was released and reinstated. However, because of the rough soul search before, his memory and other things were screened, causing damage to his sea of consciousness. Now that so many days have passed, his head still hurts sometimes, causing him to have resentment towards Tianju Pavilion, but he dares not speak out. After all, Tianju Pavilion is really in its heyday in the immortal court at this stage. Who dares to stand up and condemn it? I'm afraid he will be arrested and punished again. General Filong boasted of his iron will, but he couldn't stand the torture of the interrogators. It was simply insane. However, at the time of the Immortal Court Summit, General Filong, who was in charge of the reception, was not in a good state, but he could only force himself to cheer up, and try to greet with a smile, and was forced to do business. "Everyone, please come in, please come in." Just as General Filong was entertaining the immortal emperors to enter the South Heaven Gate, he suddenly noticed that a huge creature was flying in the sky ahead, exuding a vast and ferocious power, which was terrifying. "What is this?" General Filong's eyes widened. It was the first time he saw such a mount. The heavenly soldiers were all shocked by this breath, and they all showed fear on their faces. "Master Yi, we are here," Bu Qinfen said. Yi Junlin nodded, "Then let's go down." Then, the three of them flashed and came to the front of the South Heaven Gate. "Meet Bu Shenju," Since Bu Qinfen had been to Shanting before, General Filong naturally recognized him at a glance, and then turned his eyes to Yi Junlin and Li Ruotong, tentatively clasping his fists and saying, "Who are these two?" Bu Qinfen introduced. "These two are from Beihan Shanyu, this one is Hao Yu Shandi, and the other is Beihan Shenju." General Filong was shocked, and hurriedly clasped his fists and bowed, saying, "I am the guardian of Nantianmen, meet you too." His tone was very respectful, but more because of Yi Junlin. Yes. The two nodded. Swish, a kun turned into a young man, and came to Yi Junlin's side lively and energetic. Looking at this majestic and spectacular Nantianmen, he said with expectation, "Master, can I go in with you?" Yi Junlin did not answer, but cast an inquiring look at General Filong. It is stipulated above that mounts and battle pets can be brought in, but they cannot participate in the Shanting Summit, but there will be a special guest house. General Filong said hurriedly, "That's fine," Yi Junlin said. A kun rolled his eyes, not knowing what he was thinking. "Guys, please come inside." General Filong extended his hand sideways and said respectfully. Just when Yi Junlin and the others stepped into the Nanshan gate, a group of figures wearing black and white clothes walked up to them with a proud attitude, wearing a special token with the words Tianju Pavilion on it. The leader was a thin man with a weak face and a slightly wretched temperament. When he saw Li Ruotong, his eyes suddenly lit up. He pretended to cough a few times, then swaggered over with his hands behind his back. "Stop, let's do a routine inspection." Everyone frowned. General Filong's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly stepped forward to dissuade them. "Captain Meng, they are all immortal officials who came to attend the summit, so there's no need to be so outspoken." Meng Yi sneered and said, "General Filong, do you know what time it is now? We have repeatedly issued orders from above to take strict precautions, but when it comes to you, you are so perfunctory." General Filong suppressed his anger, forced a smile and said, "Isn't it too much to make a fuss about?" "Asshole," Meng Yi reprimanded him unceremoniously. "It is related to the safety of the immortal court, and even the life and death of the immortal realm. How come it has become such a big fuss for you? What if the undead vampires sneak in and cause a major hidden danger? Can you afford the consequences?" Spit flew everywhere, spraying all over General Filong's face. General Filong looked embarrassed, thinking about his military life, fighting on the battlefield, and finally being scolded by a villain in public. The more he thought about it, the more frustrated he became. But what can be done? The other party is a member of Tianju Pavilion and also serves as the captain. He used to be nothing in his eyes, but now he has a higher status than him. If you dare to talk back, you will suffer a lot later. Seeing Meng Yi looking like a villain, the nearby immortal officials gnashed their teeth in hatred. What's going on? Yi Junlin was a little confused. It was his first time to come to Shanting. Why was the atmosphere in Shanting different from what he thought? Bu Qinfen was even more confused. He had come to Shanting many times to discuss important matters before, and he had never seen such a group of awesome people. He would inspect them when he came up, and even gave General Filong who was guarding Nantianmen a lesson. More importantly, these people are not even immortal emperors. Who gives them the power and confidence to act like this? Window. _tabula equals window. _tabula. Push mode. Thumbs feed 01. Container. Tabula below article thumbnail. 300 by 250 feet. Placement. Below article thumbnail 300 by 250 feet. Target _type. Mix. Chapter 637. If you can take action, stop talking. General Filong, are they? Bu Qinfen asked in surprise. General Filong smiled bitterly and said, "Master Buxian, I know what you want to ask. They are from Tianju Pavilion." Bu Qinfen looked strange and couldn't help but said, "What is this Tianju Pavilion? Is it a newly established department of Immortal Court recently?" Watch your words. The Tianju Pavilion is an organization established by Liu Taisheng with the purpose of purging all the remnants of the undead blood clan within the Immortal Court. And our pavilion master is none other than one of the elders of the Immortal Court, Emperor Dongyu. Quote. Meng Yi, who moved out of the backstage, looked proud. I see. Bu Qinfen understood and was shocked by the changes in Shanting. He also did not expect that after experiencing the turmoil of the undead vampire clan, Shanting would make such a big move during this period. Although it is understandable to strictly investigate spies, who are they using? It doesn't look very reliable. Especially when the guy in front of him was yelling at him, Qinfen wanted to immediately draw his sword and kill him if he gave in. Since Tianju Pavilion has such an important responsibility, then you can just go check out the undead vampires. Why are you here looking for us? Are we even suspicious of you? Yi Junlin raised his eyebrows and said, Captain Meng, this is Immortal Master Beihan. General Filong reminded him deliberately. Meng Yi's face changed slightly, he looked at the silver-haired young man carefully, and said with a more upright attitude. It turns out to be the famous Yi Shenju, whom I have admired for a long time. Meng Yi has long been familiar with Yi Junlin. If the other party hadn't discovered the undead vampires, he wouldn't be in the position he is today. Immediately, his attitude suddenly improved. So, we can leave now. Yi Junlin said. Of course, you two can leave on your own, but I think this immortal is a bit suspicious, so I still need to be examined. Meng Yi turned around and pretended to be serious. Anyway, his target is Li Ruotong. If I can take this opportunity to have personal contact with such a stunning beauty, I will be able to boast when drinking with others in the future. Why? Li Ruotong's nose wrinkled, showing displeasure. She could see that Meng Yi obviously had bad intentions. Just because I am the captain appointed by Tianju Pavilion, you must cooperate with the investigation unconditionally. Meng Yi's smile was meaningful. Don't worry, I am a professional. I can judge whether it is the disguise of an undead vampire by touching the bones. If you cooperate obediently, it will prove that your identity is innocent, but if you don't want to. Quote. Seeing the undisguised passion in the other person's eyes, Li Ruotong felt extremely disgusted and said in a cold voice. If you dare to touch me, I will kill you. The cold breath pierced his bones, and murderous intent permeated the air. Meng Yi felt cold all over his body and was too frightened to come near. For a moment, he felt that he had lost all face. You know, since he was appointed as the captain, and with the background of Tianju Pavilion, he can be said to be a boss in Shanting, and no one dares to offend him. Some fairies who were usually noble and reserved even took the initiative to flatter him in order to establish a relationship with him. This gave Meng Yi, who had a low sense of existence, the first taste of holding huge power. Moreover, many immortal officials did not dare to provoke him, and even lined up in private to give him gifts and show their kindness to him. This made Meng Yi's heart become extremely swollen. Now, but there was an immortal who dared to treat him with such a bad attitude. Meng Yi was immediately furious, with raging anger igniting in his heart, and threatened, if you dare not cooperate, the consequences will be serious. Li Ruotong said coldly, really? I want to see how serious it is. Bu Qinfen also stood up and shouted angrily, boy, don't go too far, are you really embarrassed? General Filong was startled and quickly reminded secretly, don't be impulsive. Tianju Pavilion is not easy to mess with now. This is a special period. They have great power. Whoever is caught will suffer. After what happened during the last interrogation, he still has lingering fears. How brave. I see that your behavior is so abnormal, it must be related to the undead vampire clan. Now, as the captain of Tianju Pavilion, I order you to accept the investigation immediately. Do not disobey. Meng Yi took out his token and yelled angrily. Behind him, more than a dozen Tianju Pavilion members stood ready, and some even took out recording stones to record the scene as evidence. Looking at the arrogant Meng Yi, Yi Junlin seemed particularly calm. You are deliberately looking for trouble, right? Meng Yi held the token and said confidently, Master Yi, I respect your great contribution to the immortal court, but you have to understand that it was this woman in the beginning. Bang! Before he finished speaking, Meng Yi was beaten into a ball of blood mist, and the strong smell of blood filled the air. The whole place was silent. General Filong was stunned. The same goes for the nearby immortal officials, all with the same expression. Yi Junlin said, I'm finally clean. It was as if what he had just killed was an insignificant little insect. But in the eyes of others, this is more serious than the death of an immortal emperor. This is the captain of the Tianju Pavilion detachment, and in this special period, killing a captain in public is not only contempt for Tianju Pavilion but also disregard of the authority of immortal court. Captain Meng, he was killed. The immortal officials who witnessed this scene all looked horrified, as if they had seen some kind of terrifying scene. It's over now. General Filong was frightened. Although this scene was very relieving, he couldn't help but tremble all over when thinking about the consequences that would follow. Because he was also afraid of being implicated and entering the interrogation room again. Bu Qinfen was stunned, then laughed loudly, Master Yi is still so cheerful in doing things. Li Ruotong's complexion improved. Looking at the silver-haired figure with extraordinary temperament, he couldn't help but think. Fellow Taoist Yi, is this for me? Now, Yi Junlin looked at the other dozen Tianju Pavilion members and said meaningfully, do you also want to be like him? The captain has been killed, run away. One of the men reacted and lost his voice. In an instant, these people were so frightened that they dispersed and pissed themselves. Now that the trouble is solved, let's go, Yi Junlin said calmly. General Filong felt a headache. Are you sure the trouble is not bigger? Have you ever thought about the consequences? General Filong, don't look so sad. I believe Shanting will understand clearly. Bu Qinfen patted the other party's shoulder and said with a smile. General Filong was stunned and sighed deeply. Hey, you don't know that the immortal court now has become different from before. Even I feel strange. I am afraid that because of this incident, immortal Yi will be affected. Severe punishment from the immortal court. Bu Qinfen retracted his hand with a strange look on his face. He actually wanted to say that even the heavenly realm of the immortal world couldn't do anything to that man, and the mere immortaland was really nothing. Haha, I'll wait and see. Yi Junlin smiled and played with the taste. His purpose this time was to come to the Shanting Summit to sign in. As for the so-called Tianju Pavilion, it was not worth mentioning in his eyes. To put it more seriously, he doesn't take the entire immortal court seriously. Window. _tabula equals window. _tabula. Push mode, thumbs feed 01, container, tabula below article thumbnail, 300 by 250 feet, placement, below article thumbnail 300 by 250 feet, target _type, mix. Chapter 638, Immortal Court Summit. Afterwards, General Filong watched Yi Junlin and the others leave with a nervous mood. And this incident spread quickly in the immortal court like a storm. Have you heard that Meng Yi, the captain of the 12th team of Tianju Pavilion, was killed just now? What, there is such a thing? Haha, he died well. This kind of villain who succeeded for a while, this immortal official has long been dissatisfied with him. Is this news true? Who in the immortal court dares to kill the members of Tianju Pavilion now? What if it is a fellow Taoist who was forced into a corner? Even clay people have 3 points of anger, let alone we are immortals. The news is absolutely true. Meng Yi was killed at the gate of Nantianmen. An eyewitness claimed that it was the immortal Lord Beihan who shot him. Fuck, it must be that the immortal Lord Yi is brave enough, worthy of having made great achievements, boss. With the status and achievements of Master Yi, I think even Tianju Pavilion would not dare to settle accounts with him. It's hard to say. The pavilion master of Tianju Pavilion is Emperor Dongyu, one of the founders of the early establishment of the immortal court. He is in a high position and has great power. With his temper, he probably can't swallow this breath. Alas, the immortal court is now in a mess because of the mob of Tianju Pavilion. What did the old man Emperor Dongyu do? Fellow Taoist, be careful with your words. This time I will pretend that I didn't hear it. If this word gets to Tianju Pavilion, you will be skinned alive if you don't die. After a while, the immortal court was full of discussions, and the news spread to everyone. After all, the current Tianju Pavilion is a powerful institution in the immortal court. Wherever any member goes, the immortal officials dare not offend him and must treat him with respect. Because everyone is afraid of being accused of being an undead vampire for no reason, and then being taken to the interrogation room and tortured in every way. The interrogation room of Tianju Pavilion was also privately criticized by the immortal officials as the Hades Palace. Anyone who has been there does not want to come again. This is simply a nightmare experience. Therefore, anyone who knows what is good for them dare not offend the members of Tianju Pavilion, and treats them as masters with good food and drink. However, in this special sensitive period, a member of Tianju Pavilion was killed in the immortal court. It was a captain-level figure. The nature of this matter can be said to be quite serious. However, many immortal officials applauded Yi Junlin's approach and felt secretly happy. Surprisingly, after receiving the news, Tianju Pavilion did not respond immediately, unlike the previous tough style and fierce claws. It seemed to be waiting for something, like a venomous snake lurking in the dark. The more it was uncharacteristic, the more it made bystanders shudder. I'm afraid something big is going to happen at this Shanting Summit. Someone smelled something unusual and said with a worried look. Soon, the Shanting Summit was officially held. The location was located in the core of the Shanting, the Miro Palace. The immortal emperors rushed there one after another, with different thoughts. Is this the scene inside the Shanting? Along the way, Yi Junlin was more like a tourist, with a strong interest in his eyes. The clouds were misty, the immortal air was full, and all kinds of palaces and pavilions were scattered, showing the golden splendor and majestic atmosphere. Passing through a long rainbow bridge, there was a rippling immortal pool below, in which exotic flowers and plants grew, emitting bursts of fragrance, and the water inside had magical effects, which could wash away the filthy air and purify the soul. At the end of the rainbow bridge was the Grand Miro Palace. Above the palace, the vast purple air was steaming, and the colorful auspicious light filled the sky. The immortal music was floating around, like the sound of nature, which was fascinating. "Everyone, please come in." Two boys with red dots on their brows and quite spiritual, extended their hands respectfully. The immortal emperors entered the hall one after another, and a solemn and ancient atmosphere with the precipitation of years came to the front. Yi Junlin saw many figures here, each with different clothes and identities. Some of them also had the characteristics of the demon race, and you can tell what race they came from at a glance. Looking around, the number of immortal emperors present at present is as high as more than 80. Among them, most of them are from the Middle-earth immortal realm. It can be seen how profound the foundation of the Middle-earth immortal realm is. Suddenly, Yi Junlin saw a familiar tall figure in the crowd. It was a palace-dressed woman with outstanding temperament, soft silver hair like a waterfall, and pointed fox ears. Her waist was as slender as a crescent moon, but the round arc of her chest was very exaggerated, outlining an extremely full outline. The most eye-catching thing was the 9 furry fox tails, swaying slowly behind her buttocks. She is the queen of Qingzhou, Su Yingwo. Su Yingwo is indeed a socialite, and is particularly popular among the male immortal emperors at this moment. Her every frown and smile is just right, and she has fascinated those admirers. At this time, Su Yingwo noticed Yi Junlin, and her beautiful eyes suddenly lit up, and a sense of joy surged in her heart. Then, regardless of the surprised eyes around her, she twisted her waist and walked towards Yi Junlin, showing great initiative and enthusiasm. "Master Yi, I finally see you again." The gentle voice makes people numb and excited. Seeing this woman coming, Yi Junlin had a headache and greeted her symbolically, "Master Su, how are you?" Su Yingwo's beautiful eyes flashed, and she suddenly noticed Li Ruotong standing next to her. Her beautiful eyes suddenly condensed, and she looked up and down carefully. "This immortal is..." Li Ruotong said, "I, Immortal Emperor Hao Yu, have met Immortal Master Su. I have heard of your name, and you are a very powerful female cultivator from the human race." Su Yingwo said seriously with a more correct attitude. "Thank you Immortal Master Su for your compliment." Li Ruotong showed a smile. After the polite words, Su Yingwo's eyes returned to Yi Junlin, and then he took the initiative to move forward and hugged his arm tightly. His eyes were provocative and he said in an ambiguous tone, "Master Yi Xian, during the time we were separated, have you ever missed me?" Such intimate speech and behavior made all the immortal emperors stunned. Especially those who admired him were struck by lightning, with faces full of disbelief. Li Ruotong originally had a friendly smile on his lips, but when he saw this scene, it instantly disappeared. His fair and delicate cheeks were filled with dissatisfaction, and his beautiful eyes showed deep hostility. This naughty fox! Yi Junlin felt the astonishing elasticity in his arms and the astonished looks of the immortal emperors around him. He said with a helpless expression, "Immortal Master Su, the impact of this is not very good." Su Yingwo didn't think it mattered. Seeing Yi Junlin's restrained look, he couldn't help but burst into laughter. Then he blinked his beautiful eyes and said meaningfully, "That's because their thoughts are dirty. I and you are pure. Friendship." Yi Junlin was speechless. Your behavior in this intriguing tone will make anyone think wrong. Hey, how could Master Su do this? Who is that man? Are you stupid? Didn't you hear her mention these 3 words, Immortal Master Yi? Apart from the one from the Northern Han Immortal Territory, who else in the world is worthy of this? It turns out to be the Immortal Master of Beihan, Emperor Yi Tian. This is serious. I heard that he killed a senior member of Tianzhu Pavilion before. I think it will be more troublesome later. Not necessarily. With his status and achievements, it stands to reason that Shanting will protect him. Now that Zug Pavilion covers the sky with one hand, I think Master Yi cannot escape the blame. Punishment should be inevitable. Damn it, what I'm more concerned about is that these 2 people are actually having an affair. The miserable Immortal Slaughter didn't even hold Immortal Su's hand before he died. He pursued her for many years, but in the end, he threw himself into the arms of another man. Tisk tisk, who says it's not the case? Obviously, Su Yingwo's actions caused quite a stir at the Shanting Summit. After all, she is the Empress of Qingzhou and the Immortal Master of Shizawa, so every move she makes will attract attention. Nowadays, it is difficult to be so intimate with a person of the opposite sex without arousing everyone's discussion and attention. And those male immortal emperors who admired Su Yingwo were so angry that they almost broke their teeth. Of course they didn't dare to cause trouble to Yi Junlin, they just hoped that Tianju Pavilion could give Yi Junlin some color. Humph! Li Ruotong's face became more and more gloomy, and he stood aside with his arms folded, staring at Su Yingwo coldly, his dissatisfaction almost overflowing. As for Bu Qinfen, he was squeezed out by Su Yingwo early, with a strange expression on his face, and said secretly. When did these two people hook up? Feeling the attention around him, Su Yingwo felt very satisfied. She just wanted to take the opportunity to create an illusion to the outside world that she and Yi Junlin were having an affair. Even Su Yingwo was secretly hoping that if she took such initiative, sooner or later it would become true. No one can predict what will happen in the future. She still wants to rely on her own means and work hard. Chapter 639, Shocked Lu Wangshu. Master Su, that's enough. Looking at this top beauty hugging his arm tightly, Yi Junlin said helplessly. He naturally saw the woman's intention, which was to use this to announce to the world and bind this relationship together. Su Yingwo's eyelashes were curved, and her beautiful eyes revealed a sense of resentment. She secretly transmitted a message in a bad mood. Master Yi, I have taken the initiative to this extent, are you not moved? Feeling the amazing elasticity of his arm, Yi Junlin showed a bitter smile at the corner of his mouth. Look at what you said, I really don't dare to move. Su Yingwo heard the meaning, and a smug look flashed in his eyes. Suddenly he thought of something and asked curiously. By the way, it is said that before you came, you defeated the Buddha Emperor, the Sakyamuni saint monk, with one punch. Is this true? Many immortal emperors who have not seen it with their own eyes don't believe it when they hear it. In fact, the news that Yi Junlin defeated the Sakyamuni saint monk with one punch has been spread by some witnesses, but in this circle, most of the immortal emperors who have not seen it with their own eyes think it is nonsense and think that it is a rumor made by people with good intentions. Although they don't know why the Sakyamuni saint monk was not present, they just didn't connect this matter with Yi Junlin. Because it's really too ridiculous. You have to know, what kind of existence is the holy monk Sakya? The supreme leader of the Buddhist sect in the immortal world, the first Zen practitioner known as the Buddha Emperor. How could such a top super strong man be defeated by a punch? As soon as I heard this broken news, I knew it was fake. Therefore, except for a very small number of witnesses, most of the immortal emperors present sneered at it and did not believe the authenticity of this incident at all. They would rather think that the holy monk Sakya was in retreat and had no time to attend the immortal court summit. But Su Yingwo judged intuitively that this kind of thing must not be groundless, and it might be exaggerated. So, with the mentality of giving it a try, he asked secretly. Yi Junlin said, of course it's true. That old bald donkey stole my mount and didn't admit it. I punched him and he was stunned. Later, he decisively admitted his cowardice, so he didn't come to the scene. Hearing this, Su Yingwo's face changed, and his beautiful eyes stared at Yi Junlin's expression. He found that the other party did not seem to be joking. His breathing almost stopped, and his heart was pounding. This is actually true. This man in front of him actually has the strength to defeat the Buddha Emperor with one punch. Su Yingwo thought that at least a fierce battle would be necessary, but this was not the case. In other words, when he defeated Tu Lai, the other party had not used all his strength. At this moment, Su Yingwo refreshed his cognition of Yi Junlin's strength again and re-examined his importance. No wonder you dare to kill the people of Tianju Pavilion. It turns out that you are really fearless. Now I am relieved. Su Yingwo understood everything at once, and there was no worry in his heart. Yi Junlin said unhappily, can you let go now? Knowing that the man he had taken a fancy to was far more powerful than he had imagined, Su Yingwo was delighted and more determined in his mind. Oh, then, she reluctantly let go of his hand, but still kept very close, and dribbled the ball into him affectionately. Seeing Yi Junlin being treated like this, the male immortal emperors had complicated expressions, with envy and jealousy. After all, in their eyes, although Su Yingwo was a socialite and very popular in the opposite sex circle, no one could get close to her, and they all stopped at a certain point and kept a certain distance. Result: today is really an eye-opener. It turns out that she is not sensible, but she is not interested in them. At this time, Li Ruotong's eyes were extremely cold, staring at the pretentious palace dress woman. The dissatisfaction in her heart has reached its peak. She didn't expect that the other party would be so bold and proactive. In an instant, Li Ruotong had regarded Su Yingwo as her #1 competitor. Su Yingwo also noticed this hint of hostility, and gracefully lifted her hair, with a faint smile on the corner of her mouth. Men, they are to be snatched away. Instead of standing by and watching like a piece of wood. You still need to practice more on this point, Emperor Haoyu. At the same time, a handsome young man in a feather robe nearby also stared at Yi Junlin, with a hint of hatred hidden in his eyes. Seeing the enemy who repeatedly destroyed his plan, Yu Washeng naturally hated it very much. At this moment, a voice like a big bell sounded in the hall. Welcome all Taoist friends to attend this chanting summit as scheduled. As the voice fell, a middle-aged man with a Taoist bun on his head, who looked about 40 years old, wearing a dark blue Taoist robe and a goatee, appeared on the highest bronze platform in front. He put his hands behind his back, with a immortal-like appearance and a peerless demeanor of a Taoist master. This person is the leader of the chanting, Lu Wangshu, who has the title of Taisheng of the formation. It's him. Yi Junlin narrowed his eyes slightly, revealing a slightly strange look in his eyes. I remember that 10 years ago, when he participated in the trial of the fallen immortal island, he saw a trace of the other party's soul. The image was exactly the same, but the appearance of the original body was a little vicissitudes, as if it was caused by exhaustion and overwork. When Lu Wangshu appeared, a group of figures also appeared behind him at the same time. There were a total of 8 people, all exuding an ancient and powerful aura. Without exception, they were all in the category of super first-line immortal emperors. That's right, these are the original group of people who followed Lu Wangshu from Kunlun realm to the immortal realm in ancient times, and they are also the earliest group of elders who founded the immortal court. In layman's terms, if Lu Wangshu is equivalent to the chairman of a listed group, then these elders are the original shareholders. It is precisely because of this that the status of these 8 elders in the immortal court is unshakable, and it is absolutely not comparable to ordinary Class A immortal officials. Even the important decisions about the immortal court are decided by these few people's votes. Seeing the collective appearance of these core senior executives of the immortal court, the immortal emperors present looked solemn, and they all bowed their hands to show their respect. Lu Wangshu nodded and said loudly, I believe you all know why I called you here this time. The infiltration of our immortal world by foreign forces has now reached an outrageous level. Even the immortal master too was killed. Fortunately, the immortal master Yi of the Beihan Immortalland killed the undead vampire, and the conspiracy was exposed. Here, let us first use warm applause to thank the immortal master Yi for his great contribution. After speaking, Lu Wangshu led the applause seriously. Pa pa pa, the applause was very enthusiastic. The immortal emperors present were still very face-saving. Only Yu Washeng seemed extremely perfunctory and unhappy. Where is the immortal master Yi? Please come on stage and say a few words. Lu Wangshu's eyes flickered, and his eyes were full of strong interest. Although I have always heard of him, I have never seen him. So, Lu Wangshu really wants to meet this important talent and rising star in the immortal world. Seeing this, Yi Junlin felt helpless. Why did everyone do this? He immediately waved his hand and said, Master Lu, no need. I have nothing to say. The whole audience was silent. The immortal emperors stared at each other. At this moment, Lu Wangshu saw Yi Junlin in the crowd and was stunned. Why does this guy look so familiar? It seems that I have seen him somewhere before. Lu Wangshu always believed in his intuition and stared at Yi Junlin. In an instant, a memory from the soul clone emerged in his mind, and the scene of communicating with Yi Junlin on the immortal island reappeared. It was at this moment that the silver-haired figure gradually overlapped with the familiar figure in his memory. Boom! Lu Wangshu was shocked, as if he was struck by thunder, his head was buzzing, and his eyes showed an incredible look. It's you. Chapter 640. Emperor Dongyu launches an attack. Lu Wangshu never thought that he would meet Yi Junlin at this time, because he was the only one who passed the trial of the immortal island and inherited his mantle. He clearly remembered that he was only in the tribulation realm at that time, not even a true immortal. Now, only 10 years later, he met again and he became an immortal emperor, and he was also a top immortal emperor, a supergiant in the immortal realm. This. At this moment, Lu Wangshu's face was dull, and his mood could not be described in words. He felt like he was struck by thunder, and his soul was about to leave his body. 10 years. Can you do this? Lu Wangshu's thoughts could not help but return to the ancient Kunlun realm, the golden age when heroes competed for hegemony and geniuses emerged. Even the 4 strongest at that time would take more than 10 years to break through the immortal emperor, and it would take decades to reach the top immortal emperor. This speed is already very fast. But now, someone in the future has broken this myth. In just 10 years, he reached the peak of the immortal path. Such an unimaginable breakthrough speed, even Lu Wangshu, who had seen the world, was amazed and felt unbelievable. Wait, think about it carefully. This boy had received the baptism of 3 rounds of rewards from the fallen immortal island before, and he had already begun to have the appearance of an immortal emperor. In addition, he has a heaven-defying luck, which is not inferior to Tong Wudi at all. It is actually possible to achieve this level. Lu Wangshu tried his best to restrain his inner emotions and tried to comfort himself. Although he was shocked that Yi Junlin could reach this point so quickly, it was a good thing after all. I still remember that at the beginning, when he heard the rumors about Yi Tiandi, he had not yet connected it with Yi Junlin. After all, considering the time, Lu Wangshu thought that Yi Junlin was probably at the level of the immortal king. As a result, 10 years later, the other party has grown to the point where even he has to be careful. Seeing Lu Wangshu's expression, Yi Junlin raised a subtle arc at the corner of his mouth, knowing that the other party must have seen it. Senior, it seems that you still remember me. Due to the special occasion, he had to secretly transmit the message. You kid, you really gave me a big surprise. I was right about you. You are the hope of Kunlun realm. Lu Wangshu responded quickly, his voice full of strong emotional fluctuations. In order to recover Kunlun realm, he made arrangements many years ago, wanting to cultivate a powerful person who could stand alone, with the foundation of Yunxian Island, to resist the invasion of foreign aliens. To this end, he used the power of the immortal world to deal with it and block waves of foreign forces, in order to buy time for Kunlun realm to develop. Even so, with the rapid changes in the situation, Lu Wangshu felt that he was willing but not strong enough, and felt it was too urgent. But Yi Junlin's appearance today made Lu Wangshu see a ray of dawn. This terrifying qualification and this powerful strength led Lu Wangshu to even suspect that Yi Junlin and Tong Wudi were both sons of heaven. It's just that one is from Kunlun realm and the other is from the immortal world. Apart from this, he couldn't think of anything else that could explain why Yi Junlin was so powerful. Yi Junlin said, maybe. After all, he didn't think so much, he just wanted to be able to enjoy life while improving his realm without risk, to achieve long-term vision and longevity, and to be invincible in the world. This request is so simple and unpretentious. At this moment, seeing that the atmosphere was not right, the immortal emperors thought that this Yi Shenju really had low emotional intelligence and offended the highest person in charge of the immortal court as soon as he came. This Yi Shenju must have never read emotional intelligence in private. An old man with white hair and a childlike face stroked his beard and shook his head. Suddenly, in the countless astonished eyes, Lu Wangshu laughed heartily, his laughter was full of joy from the heart. Well said, Yi Shenju is worthy of being an important talent in our immortal world. Here I solemnly announce that from today on, Yi Shenju will be promoted to the first rank and officially ranked as a first-class immortal official. Lu Wangshu immediately made the decision. As soon as this was said, the hall was in uproar, with exclamations coming one after another. What's going on? He got promoted inexplicably. The immortal emperors were stunned, and their heads were almost unable to wrap around. You know, anyone who is promoted to the realm of immortal emperor can automatically be ranked as a Class A immortal official. But there are also high and low levels of Class A immortal officials. All immortal emperors are almost at the second Class A, and it is basically impossible to be promoted to the first class. In addition to Lu Wangshu, the leader of the immortal court, the only ones who can become the first class are the elders who founded the immortal court. Being able to become a first-class immortal official means entering the core area of power in the immortal court and being at the ceiling level of immortal officials. In other words, when Yi Junlin's country was just established in his previous life, there was a military position such as marshal, but later it disappeared, and later generations could only reach the level of generals at most. Therefore, the position of a first-class immortal official is out of reach for the immortal emperors present. So far, only a super demon like Tong Wudi can be promoted to a first-class immortal official as an exception. I thought that there would be no such precedent in the immortal court in the future. Who would have thought? That man was chosen. This. Su Yingwo's beautiful eyes glowed with a strange light, and his breathing became rapid. Even the position of the immortal lord is only higher than that of the second-class immortal official, but it cannot be compared with the first-class immortal official. Those who can reach this level are the core figures who truly dominate the immortal court. One word difference, the status is like an insurmountable gap. However, Yi Junlin did it, and was promoted to the first-class immortal official in public. Why? Yu Washeng's eyes were red, and he almost went crazy on the spot, and he roared unwillingly in his heart. He walked all the way, walking on thin ice. In the end, he could only hover at this level, and he couldn't touch the threshold of that level at all. But his hated opponent did it today. Yi Junline's achievement made Yu Washeng jealous and crazy. You know, if he could also become a first-class immortal official, then he wouldn't have to worry about it in the future. Because with this identity and power, who in the entire immortal court dared to investigate him? Bu Qinfen and Li Ruotong could understand it. After all, Yi Junline's strength and achievements were there. Among them, Li Ruotong was more active, because she noticed that Lu Wangshu's reaction was very unusual, and the two must have known each other before. Combined with Yi Junline's previous performance, Li Ruotong was more certain that Yi Junline was also a big shot in the ancient Kunlun world, and had a relationship with people of Lu Wangshu's level. A first-class immortal official, Yi Junline didn't feel anything. After all, his strength was invincible in this immortal world, and the official position was not so important in his heart. Ding, congratulations to the host for signing in at the mission location. The system will immediately issue a reward, the Human Emperor's Sword. Closing square bracket. At this time, the system prompt sounded in his mind. Okay, the holy weapon is finally in hand. Yi Junline said with satisfaction. Although he can't use it at present with his cultivation, it's still good to have it in advance. At the same time, the elders behind Lu Wangshu were also shocked by this decision. This is too sudden. Suddenly, a voice of opposition sounded, like a thunder that suddenly shook the hall, making everyone's ears buzz. I don't agree with this decision. Among the 8 elders, a tall and majestic middle-aged figure walked out, wearing a solemn black robe with mountain patterns painted on it, exuding a heavy and majestic aura. This person is the head of Tianju Pavilion, Emperor Dongyu. Chapter 641, Dramatic Changes at the Summit. Seeing this person stand up to oppose, the faces of the immortal emperors changed, secretly thinking that this person really couldn't swallow this breath. After all, Tianju Pavilion had just killed a captain-level figure, but the murderer not only did not receive any punishment, but was promoted to the top immortal official. Isn't this a naked slap in the face of Tianju Pavilion? Moreover, as the master of the pavilion, Emperor Dongyu is the head of the 8 elders. How could he tolerate such a thing? Lu Wangshu frowned, and a hint of dissatisfaction flashed in his eyes. During this period, the other party used the excuse of purging the Undead Blood clan to reorganize the internal affairs of the Immortal Court, causing complaints. He was still very resistant to this extreme approach, but he couldn't stand the situation and took into account the past relationship. Even if he didn't like it, he still chose to compromise and make concessions. After all, Tianju Pavilion did catch an Undead Blood clan. Although the means were extreme, it was effective. Before that, Lu Wangshu also heard that a captain of Tianju Pavilion was killed by Yi Junline. Because of his complaints about Tianju Pavilion and Yi Junline's contributions, Lu Wangshu was not in a hurry to punish him, but wanted to solve the matter properly in a tactful way. It was not until he learned of Yi Junline's true identity that Lu Wangshu decided not only to protect him but also to promote him. As a result, the thing he was most worried about still happened. The Emperor of Dongyu resolutely stood up and sang the opposite tune, as if he was going to tear his face off with him in public. Emperor of Dongyu, what are you doing? Lu Wangshu said in an unhappy tone. Emperor Dongyu snorted coldly, Taishang Lu, I think your decision is very inappropriate, and even absurd. Being rebuked in public, Lu Wangshu was naturally embarrassed, with a little anger in his eyes, and retorted. I would like to ask what is absurd. You know, the achievements of Lord Yi are known to the world, and he has great potential. He is fully qualified to go further and rank among the first-class immortal officials. The immortal emperors were very envious when they heard this. This is really appreciated by the nobles. Emperor Dongyu said coldly, Taishang Lu, you must know that this Yi just killed an important member of my Tianju Pavilion. He committed such a serious crime, but not only did you not uphold justice, but you also promoted him to an official position openly. This is trampling on the order of the Immortal Court and disregarding the face of Tianju Pavilion. Let me ask, where is justice? Where is justice? Quote. At this point, the Emperor Dongyu seemed very emotional, and his voice like a huge bell kept echoing in the hall, like the rumble of thunder. Lu Wangshu's face became more and more ugly. Why do you have to make such a big deal? Besides, it was your people who offended the immortal Lord Yi first, which caused the disaster of killing. Hearing this, the Emperor Dongyu said angrily, you mean, the people under my command are not worth dying? You know, he also wants to share the worries of the immortal court. This guy killed him indiscriminately, and such a sinful act deserves a promotion and reward. In my opinion, he should be stripped of his official position and imprisoned in the heavenly prison for 10,000 years to serve as a warning to others. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere suddenly became tense. This is impossible. Quote, Lu Wangshu rejected it directly, showing a very tough attitude. The importance of Yi Junlin in his mind is far greater than that of Tianju Pavilion, and he will never allow Yi Junlin to make any mistakes. You are shielding a sinner. Dongyu Emperor shouted angrily. The two sides were on the verge of a fight, and the air was filled with a strong smell of gunpowder. The immortal emperors were terrified and didn't know what to do. Unexpectedly, this immortal court summit would have such a major mess. Yu Washeng sneered at the corner of his mouth, looking at the silver-haired figure, and secretly said, Mr. Yi, this matter is inseparable from you, and you can't think of getting away unscathed today. Just when the situation was deadlocked and intensified, a clear voice sounded from the crowd, with a mocking meaning. No wonder this Tianju Pavilion is a mob, it turns out that there is a waste leading the way. Quote. The whole place was in complete silence. Everyone was so shocked that their eyes widened, almost suspecting that they had heard it wrong. Emperor Dongyu was stunned, then flew into a rage, pointing at the silver-haired young man with a playful expression, and scolded. Asshole, how dare you scold me? Yi Junlin sneered, am I wrong? Yu Tianju Pavilion has made the immortal court a mess, and you have captured an undead vampire. If I were you, I would have committed suicide on the spot to apologize for my crime. Quote. The words are rough but the truth is true. Many immortal emperors felt relieved. After all, due to the intervention of Tianju Pavilion, the immortal court was indeed in a mess. As a result, after so much trouble, they finally caught an undead blood clan. To be honest, where is the face? Of course, with their status, they naturally dare not stand up and express their opinions. Now that Yi Junlin has torn off this fig leaf in public and pointed the finger at Emperor Dongyu himself, they are really happy to hear it. A subtle arc appeared at the corner of Lu Wangshu's mouth. Okay, you kid is simply my mouth substitute. Emperor Dongyu felt humiliated, his eyes were filled with endless anger, and he said indignantly. What do you know? The undead blood clan is good at disguise, do you think it is so easy to see through and find it? With just a few words, all the contributions made by my Tianju Pavilion have been wiped out. Mr. Yi, you are so cruel. Quote. Suddenly, an immortal emperor stood up and excitedly accused Yi Junlin, what is wrong with Emperor Dongyu? His Tianju Pavilion is the last line of defense of the immortal court. You shouldn't slander him like this. Or maybe you, Master Yi, have a better idea. It really doesn't hurt to stand and talk. Well, this is the one who understands. Emperor Dongyu's expression softened a bit and he was confident. You are so awesome, you can do it. Yi Junlin glanced at the other person meaningfully, silently wrote this person down, and then raised his voice and said. In that case, I will find all the undead vampires hiding in the immortal court within one day. The tone is sonorous and powerful, and the words are striking. What? Everyone, including Lu Wangshu, was stunned by Yi Junlin's cruel words at this moment. In one day, eliminate all the undead vampires in the immortal courtyard. Is this possible? Emperor Dongyu was stunned, with a hint of imperceptible surprise flashing in his eyes, and said in a deep voice, Jun Wu, what if you can't do it? Yi Junlin was calm and composed, if you can't do it, just do whatever you want. Okay, this is what you said. Emperor Dongyu sneered. Lu Wangshu was anxious in his heart and secretly sent a message, boy, are you really sure? This is no joke. Don't worry, I will do what I say. Yi Junlin wrote lightly. Immediately, his eyes flashed, and the golden light was overwhelming, revealing a sacred meaning, like a god from above, observing all things in the world. Breaking the illusion of golden eyes. At this time, many immortal emperors were hesitant, thinking that Yi Junlin was telling lies, and were afraid they would fall for it. After all, Tianju Pavilion made such a big move and only caught one undead vampire in the end. You are alone, but you have to find all the undead vampires. Why, just rely on your eyes, okay. Ridiculous. Master Yi Xian takes action, there will definitely be a chance. Bu Qinfen said excitedly. He clearly remembered that at that time, he was wronged by the Blood Emperor Luantian, and everyone was kept in the dark. Only Yi Junlin saw through the disguise at a glance. Therefore, Bu Qinfen absolutely believed 100% what Yi Junlin said. If it's him, maybe it's possible. Su Yingwo's beautiful eyes sparkled, staring closely at the silver-haired young man with a calm temperament, full of trust in his heart. Everyone held their breath and focused on Yi Junlin. At this time, Yi Junlin used the golden eyes of destruction and was about to go out to show off his skills. Who could have imagined that the scene in front of him was unexpected, and a strange look appeared on his face. Seeing Yi Junlin stunned on the spot, Emperor Dongyu sneered, what? Is this your way? standing stupidly like a piece of wood. Answer me, where are the undead vampires? Where are they? Emperor Dongyu asked aggressively. His beard and hair were spread out, and his aura was strong, adding a sense of oppression. Haha, it's really a thief's cry to catch a thief. Yi Junlin suddenly laughed and said with a meaningful smile. What do you mean? Emperor Dongyu felt inexplicably weak in his heart, and his voice and appearance were turbulent. I mean, then, under the astonished eyes of everyone, Yi Junlin slowly raised his hand, pointed his finger directly at Emperor Dongyu, and said word by word. You are the undead vampire.